Welcome, welcome, welcome. Does the bear shit on the Pope in the woods, or does the Pope have wood for the bear who's shitting? We will never know, for we do not speak American. Happy World War II Victory Day. We copped the Nazis, and we will cop you. It's a Wednesday, but we will make it feel like a Friday starting very soon, my beautiful, beautiful chatters. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, Brendan, immediately for the resub. Thank you kindly. Welcome, my beautiful child soldier. Thank you, Forest Content. I shall no longer be subject to ads. All I had to do was pay my peenies. My peenies, 2 pesos. VP, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, 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 everybody. How are we doing this fine morning, evening, / afternoon? Happy Victory Day. On this day, we marched through Berlin and we tore those crooked crosses right off. A unified front by all people of the world, united. How are we doing? I am doing well. It is a shining day, maybe not outside. Outside it is raining. Outside it is cold. Outside it is shit where I'm at. But you will keep me warm, won't you? You will stop me from getting wet, even though I would prefer the latter. But Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's nice to be back 2 days in a row. This is how we do it. The early stream, as always, once per week. For all my beautiful, preferable, let's be honest, comrades who are not from the good old United States. Desi brale, desi ti, druže moj. I can see a lot of fucking Slavs up in chat. Always beautiful to see. Always nice to see, especially when it comes to our current record. We're not exactly the most progressive ethnicity on the planet, but yes, it is between 3 and 5 p.m. here, just so I don't dox myself. Yana Gibashi, unfortunately, I am American. Well, we can't choose what we become. We can only choose what we will do with it. I had a pretty nice evening last night. I watched, what do you fucking call it? The Sympathizer over on HBO. Like, the literal main character is a double agent who serves the North Vietnamese, the communist Vietnamese, and he's embedded with the South Vietnamese, the ultranationalists, representing American interest. And for now, it's been pretty fucking based. Like, very mild criticism of the behavior of the so-called Viet Cong. I am looking forward to it. So check it out on HBO. I'm not being paid to say this. It's genuinely a pretty decent show. But today is gonna be a news day, a bit of a philosophy day, a relaxed day. We're gonna do some intense topics. We're gonna do some relaxing topics. Sit down, pop your corn. I'm not talking about your penises. And go on this ride with me, shall we? Before we start, I immediately wanted to say once again, thank you very much to Forced Content and Brendan for the subscriptions while the intro animation was going. I hope you liked the intro animation. I gave a decent $1 to make it, let's be fucking honest. But yeah, today, as we said, is Victory Day. So happy Victory Day. Let's watch this video and maybe even a bit of very cringe History Channel coverage on what happened. What happened? All I know is this was the best victory parade of all time. Imagine thousands upon millions have given their life to stop the advance of fascism. And you sit on this square and you're like, holy shit, it's over. It's actually over. And interestingly enough, exactly during Victory Day, Xi Jinping is in Belgrade, in the center of the Balkans. We have my main sponsor. So he said that he's going to fly in. We have a very special airport here in JT's basement where I live. So I'm going to hang out with Xi after finishing today's live stream session, just so you know. Yeah, baby! Happy Victory Day! Piss on the fascists! We did it once, we will do it for all eternity. For a ideology based on hierarchy, oppression, and domination has no place amongst the beautiful Homo sapiens. Let me go drink some coffee. Start this lovely stream. This part, I believe it's this part, was arguably one of the symbolically most beautiful things that, like, I've ever seen. Literally, ever. The throwing of the flags. Right? They don't throw them in this part. What? Yeah, right, this part. One of the symbolically most beautiful moments in human history. The end of the most brutal conflict that we have ever seen, garnered and mostly won, obviously through the allied efforts of the entire world, but mostly through the blood, sweat, tears, and mud of communists. Never fucking forget that. The absolute diapason, as we say, the absolute contrast, the absolute opposite of what the Nazis saw the future of the world as becoming. This. In front of Lenin's tomb. Half of the Nazi ideology was based on rigorous anti-Semitism and anti-Slavic, anti-Roma, anti-black racism, but the other half was based on pure anti-communism. And for this ideology in the 20th century to die as those very flags are thrown in front of Lenin's mausoleum, the greatest, arguably, revolutionary of our time and maybe of all time, is a literal testimony to the potential our species has. So never forget, and when it comes to Nazis, never forgive. We can be good Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, or whatever the fuck when it comes to any other group on planet Earth. But Nazis, forgiving Nazis is like forgiving animals. They do not understand it. If they're rabid, they bite again. So let's see what History Channel has to say about victory in Europe. Victory Day, baby.
As the Soviet army advances through the streets of Berlin, Reichschancellor Adolf Hitler marries his longtime mistress, Eva Braun. He waits until the Soviets are only blocks away, and then shoots himself in the head.
This is London calling.
Rest in peace, bozo!
A news flash. The German radio has just announced that Hitler is dead.
Here's a special news bulletin. The British Broadcasting Company has just reported that Adolf Hitler died at the Reich Chancellery in the heart of burning Berlin.
With Hitler gone and the capital of the Third Reich now a smoldering ruin, the men and women of the Allied forces, including GI Rocky Blunt, know that the end of the war is upon them.
I guess I'll be heading home soon. After everything I've been through, that will be a major accomplishment by any account. But there's still so many unanswered questions, so much I'm uncertain of. One thing I am certain of, I have to put the horrors of the past behind me and build a new life. A life of peace, not war.
Thank you for your service, sir. The last time Americans were based, am I right? The last goddamn time. Mac Fatbutt, ide klima, da. Now, I have an air conditioning. For those of you who do not know, it is thanks to the beautiful support of all of my wonderful, wonderful subscribers. They give me $5 a month, out of which Twitch gives me half, that I now have an air-conditioned room in which I will not literally boil to death as I sit in this mask, okay? I hate how Yanks concentrate all the focus of the fall of Berlin on themselves. Like, man, the fuck did you do? Not put the Nazis run a tail between their legs all the way from Moscow. Yeah, it's classic American behavior. Thank you very much, Catgirl Sky, for the sub and for my air conditioning budget of the great Israeli state of Gooners.
This is the BBC Home Service. We're interrupting programs to make the following announcement. It is understood...
As I am interrupting this program because Twitch is already going to play an ad, I have no control over this in exactly 20 seconds. If you do not want to watch those ads for $5 a month or for free through Prime, please do consider becoming a subscriber. Interruption stopped. Thank you kindly.
That in accordance with arrangements between the three great powers, an official announcement will be broadcast by the Prime Minister at 3 o'clock tomorrow. In view of this fact, tomorrow, Tuesday, will be treated as Victory in Europe Day.
After nearly 6 long years, the war in Europe is finally over. May 8th, 1945 is declared Victory in Europe Day.
Thank you, MC Fatbutt, for the sub. Welcome, my beautiful child soldier. I don't know why the alerts aren't working. I'm going to work on that now.
Spontaneous celebrations erupt throughout the world.
French soldiers pick me up, hoist me on their shoulders, and carry me down the Champs-Élysées shouting, "Vive la France! Vive l'Amérique!"
After 4 years of service in 5 countries, U.S. Army nurse June Wandry is on furlough in Paris on VE Day.
We are in the heart of Paris. The crowd is nearly hysterical. Everyone is out on the streets, planes zooming overhead in huge formations. All the important brass.
Thank you, Yanagibashi, for the 2 gifted subs as well. I am working on the alerts. I have no idea why they're not working. Very fucking weird. Thank you very kindly.
Are there, De Gaulle, and here I am.
A very great crowd is collected already. Thousands upon thousands of people gathered to share this historic day with the King and Queen. Listen to the crowd.
Who did nothing but sit in their ivory fucking tower. Okay, they're working now. They are working. Thank you, Yanagibashi, for another gifted sub. The legendary Yanagibashi with 66 gifted subs on this beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you for saving 3 people from those goddamn fucking ads. Moscow, USSR. Let's see if they switch it to like a more gloomy depiction.
The last communique of World War II is in. The Russian people were told for the first time of
the Soviet people, like, that is my biggest fucking irk, and I know that historically during that period that they always refer to them as Russian because, hey, our American brain cannot comprehend the idea of an actual international state of literally hundreds of ethnicities living in unison and creating a better future with all its faults, etc., but we cannot imagine that. So let's always refer to the Soviet Union as Russians. And I fucking hate when there's like fucking World War II movies and pre-World War II movies where they continue to only refer to them as Russians. It's a very hard pet peeve of mine.
Germany's unconditional surrender.
In the nearly...
There's no personalized story of a Soviet soldier, though. Did you see that? Have you noticed it? Have you noticed it, my children? There were personalized stories of a French woman who, Viva Amerique, and there was a personalized story of a future jazz player as he was going back home after serving the great United States in its effort against the Axis power, an effort that they joined literally among the last groups and the last world power that joined. But, you know, let's not pick and choose. But there was no personal story of a Soviet soldier, of course.
4 years that the United States fought in World War II, about 16 million Americans served in the armed forces. Over 415,000 never made it home. Most were killed in combat. Many remain missing in action. For those who survived, the echoes of the war experience linger for a lifetime.
In my opinion, war is a terrible thing. I never thought in my life, in my young life, that I would see what I saw and had to go through what I went through.
Every cross I see in a military cemetery represents a young life between 20 and 40 years.
Thank you, Jaws. Hello, brother and chat. Hope you're doing well. When you're here, Jaws, we always are. Thank you for the 100 cheers, baby.
Page. That's a waste. It shouldn't be. The people who create those situations are never the ones.
And isn't it crazy that this lovely gentleman that fought the Nazis probably returned home to an apartheid state? Absolutely.
That are out there fighting. I detest that. I hate it.
$70 million. 6 million Jews, over 13 million Soviets.
War is stupid, crazy. We've got to have love on our planet.
There is a pride in being a veteran. I know that being a veteran sets me apart from millions of other people who did not sacrifice so much of their life and their mentality and their emotions for our country. Of that, I'm very proud.
Yeah, of course, History Channel will completely concentrate on the Americans. Dancing on all your Nazi ancestors' graves as my penis is out and kisses in terror. Without the communist wall to stop Nazi advance, most of you, like people are joking, like you would be speaking German right now. You would not be speaking. Your ancestors would have been killed, okay? Unless you were defined as Nordic or as a part of an ethnicity that can be bred with Nordics, at least on the European continent, your ancestors would not be alive. Exactly. Without the Communist Party, there would be no Slavs, period. Period. No discussion about it. Most likely no Spaniards either, and eventually they would have cannibalized even the Italians. Russia would be a primitive, tsarist, unindustrialized shit. Oh no, Russia would not exist. Russia would not exist. The Nazis would have rolled through and literally enslaved, castrated, and mass exterminated every Slav on the continent. Period. I imagine my Nazi ancestors turning in their graves, seeing me become a communist. Good for you, my friend. Great grandpa took a post-mortem L. Yeah. Not rest in peace, grandpa. I'm sorry. Exactly, Yufigi. All non-Nordic peoples, to remind you if you haven't watched that video of mine, Nordic peoples have been defined by the Nazi Party as the least diluted ethnicity that is a direct descendant of the ancient Aryan kingdom. So Aryan is like a culture, is like a kind of country, let's say, that existed in the past that they believed in. And because it diluted itself through intermixing with other groups, it eventually fell apart. But the groups that managed to intermix the least and therefore are the closest to ancient Aryans are the Nordics. They also accepted the Mediterraneans, as they call them, over in Italy, and there's another term for French people, etc., etc. They would be bred out, okay? They would be bred out or killed, but a Nordic could breed with them and still produce a Nordic, right? And continue down the line of introducing something that, through 100 or 200 years is as pure Nordic as possible and therefore as close to Aryanhood as possible. Slavs, because they are stupid and barbaric, are manipulated by the Jew into Bolshevik communism, and therefore they're manipulated, they're stupid and barbaric because they intermix too much with the so-called Asiatic hordes, as they define them, and therefore were not to be bred with, but would be bred out through mass extermination, castration, and those of them deemed physically fit enough would be castrated and used as slaves. A very similar policy would be used to that of the United States with the African peninsula, with Africans being quite literally bred only as slave stock to be used for the construction of the Third Reich east of Berlin in the Lebensraum. the treatment of all of the so-called native populations of both the Balkans, Central Europe, Eastern Europe, and eventually as they move into Asia, would be treated the same way that the Americans treated the Native Americans. They would quite literally be completely exterminated and replaced with a more pure and closer to Aryanhood type of civilization. That was the long-term plan. So whenever you hear, we would all be speaking German without this or that World War II soldier, no, you would not be speaking anything. You would not have been born, most likely, or if you're an older chatter, you would have been exterminated. So that was the more general plan. And as I say many times on here, like the Nazis themselves would look at Hitler and be like, dude, this plan is like too huge. We can't get away with killing hundreds of millions of people. Like, everybody's going to notice. We're not going to be able to create this Lebensraum. And the only thing that Adolf would do is just point at the United States and say, look at that. They did it. They did it. They went to this continent that had hundreds of millions of people living in it. They exterminated them. They created a new state. And not only did they succeed, but they were celebrated as this incredibly progressive nation that everybody needs to look at as beacons of progress and democracy. If it could work for the Americans, why can't it work for us Germans? That's pretty much it. Not all Germans, of course. And then, but unfortunately for that lobby, Stalin, Tito, FDR, they walked into the lobby, okay? And they started fucking pwning top-tier KD ratio to talk in more chat terms. But yes, happy Europe Liberation Day, at least, and a few days after that, quite literally, the liberation of the rest of, what do you want to call it? The rest of the world, yes. So, mods, please, if you're here, adjust the title as we move forward. And I saw this very good video by our favorite Greek, our favorite Voldemort, Yanis Varoufakis. Yanis Varoufakis, called Naomi Klein and Yanis Varoufakis. I like Naomi Klein as well. The wrong lesson from history. What a day. What day should we pick, if not today, to dive into this wider conversation? The day when we defeated the Nazi hordes under the communist banner and the banner of freedom. So let's start. Let's start from around here, I believe. I have not pre-watched. I just wanted to see where I should start.
Idea which you also talk about in the series, which is the collusion between the far right and the center ground, and the fact that they're continually feeding off each other, especially electorally.
Before I get into that, I need to thank Naomi Klein once again for her work, particularly Naomi. The fact that you mentioned...
Yeah, the good Naomi Klein, not the fucking human trafficking Naomi Klein. What's the other Naomi Klein? Isn't there like the model Naomi Klein? Or no, it's just this Naomi Klein. I'm confusing her with another Naomi. Naomi, the model, the tall lady. Whatever.
Mentioned genocide 3 or 4 times. For someone like you to be doing this, given your background, your Jewish background, it is of central importance.
Naomi Campbell, thank you, Jesus Christ. Naomi Campbell, yeah.
It is exactly what we need now, because let's face it, those of us who...
I need to brush up on my models. Yeah, this Naomi Campbell, yeah, very beautiful woman. Fortunately, I listened to too many TrueAnon episodes about her, and I'm like, nope.
Question the activities, let me put it very bluntly and comically, the activities of the IDF in Gaza are immediately branded as anti-Semitic. And of course, you are being branded self-hating Jew, but it is crucial that we maintain the fight against anti-Semitism with exactly the same, within the same project, as maintaining the criticism, the rage against the genocide which is happening. And so, people like you, like Ilan Pappé, like Gideon Levy, like Ofer Kasif, like our comrade in Berlin, Iris Hefetz. I think you are the greatest contributors to a modicum of humanism. Trump hates Biden with a passion. Collusion, because, the worst aspect of it all is that there is no collusion. I have no doubt that Biden hates Trump, and Trump hates Biden with a passion. I have no doubt that Macron considers himself to be a true liberal whose job in this world, on this planet, is to fight against the ultra-right of Le Pen. But it doesn't matter, because they are caught in a waltz. They are caught in a dynamic, in an infinite negative reinforcement dynamic, whereby what one does reinforces the other and vice versa, ad infinitum. So it really doesn't matter whether they like each other or whether they talk to one another. I mean, so there's no conspiracy here. That's the point I'm making. But let's face it, Biden would never have been president if it wasn't for Trump. And today Trump wouldn't be there, even being considered as a possible president, if you didn't have Obama and Biden immediately after the great financial...
By the way, a top Nazi scum leader was released lately from prison in Greece. Yeah, they released the Golden Dawn guy? Really? Prison release of Golden Dawn founder. State prosecutor reportedly opposed release of neo-Nazi Nikos Michaloliakos 4 years into 13.5-year sentence. Jesus Christ. They couldn't even let him do a fucking 10 years. The unrepentant founder of Greece's neo-Nazi Golden Dawn, who insisted followers addressed him as the Führer, has been released from prison 4 years into a sentence of 13.5 years, having been convicted of operating a criminal organization that posed as a political party. Nikos, a Holocaust denier and admirer of Adolf Hitler, was allowed to return to his home in Athens this week, although his conditional discharge was only made public on Thursday. The news sparked among members of the country's anti-fascist movement. It's a scandalous decision. Jesus Christ, wait. Why the fuck did they release him? I mean, a capitalist fucking boot state being okay with a fascist when nobody's looking, at least, is what we're used to at this point. He said operatives of the far-right ultranationalist party will still run branches in Thessaloniki despite it being officially disbanded. Greek media reported his release application had been vigorously opposed by a state prosecutor. The discharge, agreed by a judicial council in the central town of Lamia, stipulated that he was banned from fraternizing with other far-right activists and would have to present himself at a local police station once a month. He was also forbidden from leaving the greater Athens region of Attica. But they don't say what the argument was. The argument is that he served 2/3 of his fucking stint. Is that it? What the fuck? A maniac murdered a woman in front of a police station and the pigs tried to cover it up. Can't make this shit up. Yeah. Is anyone even shocked anymore that fascists are getting only slaps on the wrist while communists or socialists are literally being attacked by police or spied on? Nobody is. That's why my reaction is so milquetoast. Like, I wish I could be incredibly surprised by this. But, yeah. I mean... just a regular day in modern neoliberal democracy. Probably if somebody like robbed a house in Greece, they would have to, stay in jail for 15 years. But you organize a far-right neo-Nazi criminal group that poses as a party, and they let you out in 3 to 4 years for good behavior. He probably lived like a king inside as well. All these guys are rich as shit, man. Probably his far-right friends would send him money. The same way you far-right friends send me money through subscriptions. And he lived like a king in there. All the cigs, all the fucking food, because this guy looks like he fucking eats. How the fuck can you be a Greek and a Nazi? Like, literally, let's Google Greek man, okay? Greek man. This is the pinnacle of Aryanhood. Period. Like, thank you very much, Sid CD, for the resub. Mwah, mwah, right back to you, my beautiful child soldier. Very Aryan, very Nordic. Very Aryan and Nordic. Very, very Aryan and Nordic. Exceptionally Aryan and Nordic peoples. I am a Greek Nazi and a fan of Adolf Hitler. I am the most normal guy ever. Check out this incredible Aryan specimen, okay? Being a fascist in general, okay, you can pull that off with any ethnicity, but being specifically a Nazi while being Greek is wild to me. What's next? Fucking Ghanaian Nazis? Fucking Zimbabwe Nazis? I mean, we have Brazilian Nazis, so nothing fucking surprises me anymore.
Catastrophe of 2008. Bailing out the bankers and condemning the masses to austerity. That is what gave rise to the malignancy.
Yeah, Hitler himself had a very comfortable jail sentence, exactly, when he wrote his magnum opus.
So, if they knew better...
And yes, Churchill sided with Greek Nazis and slaughtered Greek communists at the end of World War II to reinstate monarchy there, exactly.
Biden should have...
that is why, out of many other reasons, such as the mass murder, basically, of 3 million Indians through starvation, through systematic starvation, mind you. That is why we do not stand Churchill up in this motherfucker, okay? Thank you very much. Move. 34cc for the resub. I love to sauce up and win, bro. Drain gang for life. Yeah, great Israeli soldier of Gunerstan. Love you, Gopnik. Thank you for being a voice for justice. No, thank you very much for your support.
A picture of Trump on his bedside table with a nice golden frame, and he should be blowing him kisses every night before he goes to bed. And Trump should have Biden's. Similarly between Le Pen and Macron. Macron would never have been president if it wasn't for Le Pen. And Le Pen would never have been able to capture the hopes and the fears and the anger of the many in France if it wasn't for the austerity policies that people like Macron have been implementing for all those years. Now, your latest book is, by the way, I think it's one of...
I think possibly Rekar. I think possibly the worst are Slavs who are Nazis is the most dumb possible political position. I could not agree more, man.
Saying a lot. It's one of your most insightful books, and
one of my oldest videos that I've ever made was exactly on this topic.
To say that I enjoyed it immensely, especially this dialectical approach you have to unpicking the manner in which genuine emotions of uncovering the truth amongst rightists, which is, of course, very interspersed with conspiracies and so on and so on. Nevertheless, the worst aspect of it is that they have authentic emotions. A lot of those emotions are justified. When Trump, in his inauguration, talked about carnage, he was speaking the truth about a large segment of the population, the deaths of despair. I mean, how can you, as a left-winger, not acknowledge that? And, of course, the trick in the tail, as they say, about what Trump is doing, and people like Trump, is how they can weaponize these emotions in order to secure the authenticity of their alternative facts, in other words, their lies, to capture the power of...
I love to see Yanis become an even more prolific figure lately, and attempts to silence him only made him stronger. Exactly. But Yanis was extremely popular in the past. Like, I was given Yanis as reading material in university, right? Like, but it's interesting to see him not hide his power levels as much and become a more openly radical progressive as time goes on, as much as his position in the funnel allows him to, of course.
The public that supports him on the basis of genuine...
He's our favorite Greek Socdem. He's a dem sots, he's not a sotsdem. Having read some leftist literature, would you recommend also reading Adam Smith and others to understand liberal capitalism, or just go straight to Marx? You can skip over Adam Smith and go straight to Marx, but after you read Marx, go and read Adam Smith. It's not necessarily a stepping stone, but reading Adam Smith, you don't need to read Adam Smith. There's great books that congest basically what he's saying, and there's even left-wing authors that can give you the gist of it in 100 pages. You don't have to, go through all of his written records. But yeah, knowing Adam Smith is pretty decent and kind of important.
Discontent, go into the White House and immediately appoint somebody from Goldman Sachs to be the Treasury Secretary, and to pass legislation on behalf of the top 0.001%, which would be absolutely lethal electorally for anyone to propose unless they've already caught up the imagination and the pain of the people who have experienced the carnage. But that is not new, because as Naomi said, we are going through a retake on the mid-war period. When I was writing a book, 10, 15 years ago, I spent a good year, it wasn't actually a good year, it was a very bad year, reading almost everything that Goebbels had written. And if you read Goebbels' texts, especially his pamphlets and his speeches of the 1920s, not the 1930s, the 1920s, before they were successful, when they were at around 3.5%, the National Socialists, the Nazis. All his talks and his pamphlets and his articles comprised 500 words, almost exactly 500 words. The first 250 words were brilliant. I endorse them. It was a fantastic critique of finance, of banking, of capitalism, of exploitation, of austerity, of this, of that, and the other, right? Of the elites printing money on their own behalf and jeopardizing the middle class and the petit bourgeois savings and so on. And then, of course, on around word 250, so we have to kill the Jew. I mean, the non sequitur. And then the rest you can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this yesterday. It is the classic misdirection, which is to an extent the greatest purpose any bleeding liberal, also known as a fascist, plays in late-stage capitalism, or in the case of World War II or pre-World War II, in capitalism in decay or capitalism in crisis.
Imagine, there's no point in reading the other half. But this...
It addresses very real issues, very real problems that people are facing, but it offers solutions that very directly misdirect, for the lack of a better word, towards something that is in no way related to actually solving the issue at hand, but instead very much so can put in people's efforts towards maintaining capital as the dominating structure in the particular society, baby.
The Steve Bannons of the world, and the even Boris Johnson, who is not as much a buffoon as he's being presented. If you hear him speak, occasionally when he's not intoxicated, they are simply second-rate versions of Goebbels, because a lot of what they say resonates with reality. And as Goebbels said, every large lie has to be built on a myriad of small truths. And small truths that affect people and destroy their lives. So this is what we're having, and it's nothing new, except that it's not. Second time is not as farce as Marx would put it, but it is just a second-rate version of what happened the first time around.
And the first time wasn't the first time. I mean, this is what I think is so important about understanding even the significance of the South African case against Israel before the ICJ, where you have all of these Western powers lining up. For Israel, including Germany, saying, whatever the result, we stand with Israel. And then Namibia steps forward and says, excuse me, Germany, it's just because you've committed genocide several times doesn't make you the arbiter of what is genocide. Like, how about listening to some of your victims, including the Nama and Herero people who are recognized as the victims of the first genocide of the 20th century, which really gets neglected, where there's almost not almost, but really a white supremacist way of sort of ranking genocide. And so it's sort of like it's illegal to compare, increasingly actually illegal in Germany, to compare the Holocaust to any other genocide, right? So it gets lifted out of history.
But it is also like just ideologically aligned with the unipolar power United States, which is built on colonialism, to just quite literally ideologically not being able to identify colonialism as genocide, because it would have to admit to itself that it is also founded on genocide. So colonialism is not problematic, and was not problematic during the Nakba, and will never be problematic, because it insinuates that creating a state by going to a particular place and taking it over from the local population and then eventually exterminating said local population is exactly what the Americans had done. And when there is only one unipolar world that defines what genocide is, what colonialism is, as not necessarily bad and a normal pathway towards creating a nation state, then this ideological current becomes standard worldwide. Just like how, Gramsci talks all the time, bourgeois mentality is what even the proletarians start indirectly or directly, subconsciously being subsumed in because they exist in capitalism. Capitalist morality becomes your morality, even though you're being exploited, and it in no way correlates to the way the capitalist the way the capitalist looks at the world. Your view should not correlate to it. just because you're existing in a world where the power is in the capitalist and the capitalist gets to define what morality is versus what it isn't, a massive oversimplification. Indirectly, not through some cabal or whatever big lobby that is investing in things, even though nowadays with literal lobbies and literal think tanks, that is exactly what is happening. This also applies to the international playing field. What we define as normal behavior in state-to-state interactions is defined by the unipolar only superpower on the planet, and that is the United States. Whatever the United States, to say as simply as possible, whatever the United States says is normal behavior when it comes to interstate relations, that becomes normal behavior. Yeah? So mass murdering your own civilians, your own citizens, the way Nazis did to the Jews, that is genocide. But going to another place and then mass murdering them and taking their land, that is colonialization, and we will never... The way you make something bad is when you react to it and say this is bad, and then put in foreign policy that is going to stop that. That is how something becomes, quote unquote, bad from the perspective of the international community. This has never been done for the cause of the Palestinian people, or to an extent, absolutely any colony on planet Earth. So while we may sit and be like, hey, this is bad because it is obviously bad, when it comes to policy, when it comes to perspective that is agreed upon by most foreign ministers, but by most presidents, by most prime ministers, it's mumbo-jumbo bullshit because it's never really truly been done. Thank you very much, Socialist Scientist, for the resub. Welcome back, my beautiful child soldier. Thank you, Scoop. Thank you, 420 Blushed, for the 100 bits. Thank you, Level 3 Potato, for the resub. Let's Go Hype Train. Thank you, 344C, for the 100 bits. And thank you, Ian Chlinak, for the resub. Welcome back, my beauties. Thank you for avoiding the ads and making this channel more sustainable. I really appreciate it. If we reach level 5 Hype Train, I would love you even more. Fuck yeah. Oil me up, baby. Oil me up. But yeah, I hope you understood my perspective. Do Zionists who deny the current genocide in Gaza also deny the Srebrenica genocide? No, they don't. Even though probably some of them do, you know. Tito helped decolonize many nations through the non-alignment movement. That he did. This is something countries of the former Yugoslavia should be very proud of, but they probably don't even teach it in schools. No, they don't. Germany being like, only we can commit genocide. Yas, king, yas, preach, boss girl, German genocide. But TLDR, unless the US says something is bad, the rest of the world's politicians will not agree that something is bad. The US cannot say colonialism is bad because it is founded on colonialism. Okay? That's it. That's the fucking bare bones argument. And it's absolute truth.
And it gets treated like you can't trace anything that led to it, or any of the methods, the practices, and Hitler was explicit about this. He said, I didn't invent the concentration camps, the British did. And of course the Germans ran horrific death camps on Herero territory, and conducted medical experiments that you could draw a straight line to, not only the medical experiments in Auschwitz, but the race theory that animated the entire project. I mean, they were measuring skulls. So we can't actually...
Austro-Hungary, to an extent, even in World War I, one of the main reasons that they saw the Balkan Peninsula as a potential colony is because they were jealous of all the other European superpowers having hundreds upon hundreds of colonies in South America, North America, and most importantly in that period in Africa, right? So here's another colony that we can make into a colony because they just liberated themselves from the Ottomans. A continuation of colonial mentality, which one would say, oh, ever since Britain let go and Spain and Portugal let go of their colonies, we no longer consider that a quote-unquote good thing. No, they only let them go because they could no longer sustain the so-called empire. If they could sustain it, colonies, which still do exist, would still exist to this day. Instead, they took up neocolonialism, which is the American approach, which is, you don't necessarily plant an American flag in a country. You just take all their fucking resources for very cheap because you have all the industry, and then you turn it into a more expensive product because you actually process it, oil being the cliche example, and you basically are treating that particular country as an economic colony of yours. Not just economic. In order for this to continue, you establish the political elite in that country to be one which supports your goals as the colonist. So it's the same thing, just done with less bureaucracy, basically. Like, shit on the Americans as much as you want, and you should, but they sure know how to make an operation lean, baby.
We see that this as the second time.
Yeah, exactly, Anna Gibashi. Instead of planting a flag, you just establish an LLC. Unironically.
We're in a loop here, and we need to. One of the things I write about in Doppelganger is my own, I think, bad Holocaust education. I went to a Jewish school, a Jewish day school, and we learned, the statistics of the Holocaust, like they were mathematical tables just drummed into us. And a friend of mine, who's one of the founders of Jewish Voice,
like it's different. It's like. This is very important, what Yana Gibashi said, and what Reo Digger said. Important to remember that it's only the country, it's not really the countries, it's a corporation. If you put your boots on the ground, then you're taking over. If you simply send your corporation over, and it's taking the same resources as if you would be doing by putting boots on the ground, it is internationally legal. They just made the operation of colonialism more lean. That's the only thing that happened.
Voice for Peace, which is an extraordinary, Jewish anti-Zionist organization that I've been a part of now for 15 years. Cecily said, that we grew up not with remembering the Holocaust, but with re-traumatization. That if this is a culture not of remembering, even though it's called the Holocaust remembrance and so on, but it's actually a practice designed to keep the descendants in a heightened traumatized state, right? So it gets reenacted, right? Like, we would like to think about the Holocaust museums where you put onto cattle cars with the idea is to get a bodily experience. And so this is a kind of a dismemberment, right? In a way, it's not a remembering, because what remembering does is it tries to put the kind of traumatized pieces of the self back together again, because what trauma does is it splits the self. And we have so-called leaders in the Jewish community who want us traumatized, who want us afraid, right? Which is the opposite of leadership. And so this is why I think this historical work is so important, because what's actually happening is real remembering, and that this event that has been lifted out of history, and that we're told we can't trace the lines that created it, and we can't look at the lines that happened afterwards. We have to just see it as this rupture in time and space. We now have generations of young people who are, the Black Lives Matter generation, who are, the people who, led Rhodes Must Fall, who have done this sort of digging about the colonial histories of their own countries. And they are seeing the patterns, and their elders are freaking out because they actually have educated themselves. And as you know, Giannis, you're a teacher. What do we want from students? We want them to be able to think critically, to recognize patterns, not just to memorize, like a rule. Don't be mean to Jews. No, that's not the lesson. The lesson is don't practice othering. Don't create an in-group and an out-group. And all of these other principles. And this is why I always say Germany is a terrible student, because they learned a rule, but they didn't learn a principle. So now they're like, okay, well, the rule is stand with Israel, but we're going to transfer all of these similar sort of patterns of thought and project them onto Muslims and Palestinians and immigrants.
Exactly.
And so, so anyway, that's just a bit of a tangent, but I think it's really important that we get out of the practice of thinking about just a repetition of that particular kind of fashion.
But instead, learning the principle. And this is a continuation of extremely oppressed peoples using the fact that they had been extremely oppressed to sometimes, and they have done it throughout history, do incredible acts of violence onto another group. Because they didn't learn the principle of doing this in general is bad. They learned it was bad because it happened to us, and we need to remember so it doesn't happen to us again. To use a very good example, or for example, the main argument that Serbs used for mass murdering Croats. Croatia, World War II, Ustasha movement, etc.,
Wonderful. A
etc.,
new child soldier.
mass murdered
subscriber.
hundreds of thousands of Serbian kids, women, children, etc., etc. Horrible shit. But then a reactionary Serbian movement 50 years later was like, it's a free-for-all, murder Croats because their ancestors murdered yours. No, that's not a good enough argument for you to do that shit. Or both Croats and Serbs against the Bosnians. Hey, they cooperated with the Ottomans. Remember how much the Ottomans were murdering and raping and pillaging us for like 500 years. That gives us an argument to kill their great-great-grandchildren because of the perceived sort of idea of, hey, now we get to do something back at you. And that's why we'll hear so often, for example, the Israel-Palestine relation. We hear so often that, hey, a lot of Palestinians were supporting Hitler, etc., etc. So that allows you to what? That allows you to what? Now kill their great-great-grandchildren? What the fuck is this unhinged shit? But that is what happens. When you don't learn the principle, you just learn to be pissy about what had happened to your people in particular. It's essentialist at its core. You're not angry that genocide happened. You're angry that it happened to your people. Two very distinct and different concepts. Thank you very much, MXG Legendary, for the 4th month sub. What the fuck is up? How is everyone doing? I'm doing good when I see you.
I think we need to see this as a kind of, it's a kind of a fascist constellation or a recurrence, and that we are in a process of
yeah, and then ironically, Croats end up ethnically cleansing Serbs as well, and it just runs in both sides. It's the Yugo wars were as unhinged as what we're seeing in Palestine right now as well. Just the difference thing with the Yugo wars, it was not a colonial project, right? It was multiple native populations mass murdering each other on the basis of absolutely batshit ideologies that they had to think up on the spot to excuse murdering one's neighbor.
Truly remembering so that we can get out of the loop, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. As I'm preparing to go to Germany with Raoul, we are going there supposedly to promote this documentary, but also I'm
A hole it burns 007. The worst thing is when the enemy makes you become like them, not what it necessarily may do to you. Yeah. And it's extra sad. It's extra sad when you see people that have suffered so much doing something like this to other peoples. It's extra, let's say, disappointing. And Naomi really hit the fucking nail on the head. People didn't learn that the principle of mass murder is bad. They learned that mass murder against my people is bad. They didn't learn that like kids playing in a playground. Your kid hits another kid, right? No, your kid gets hit by another kid. And then you should go and tell your kid, it's very bad when someone hits someone else. And if someone hits someone else, you need to stand up for yourself or that other person that is being hit. That is one lesson you can give them. That's the right lesson. There's the wrong lesson where you can tell when you tell them, never let a kid fucking hit you. If they hit you, beat the shit out of them. You don't mention defend another one when it's hit. You don't mention that hitting is bad. You don't mention any of this. You just tell him, you getting hit is bad. You need to act like a fucking monkey and protect your territory, the tree that you pissed on, okay? That is what you're teaching them. Sounds like same lesson. Very different lesson. In one, you're teaching your child a principle. In another, you're teaching your child to be always on top. And unfortunately, from World War II, that's the only fucking lesson most of us fucking got. Fucking idiots.
I'm doing some electoral work because, as you know, we have European Parliament elections coming up in June, and our party is running in Germany. Our German comrades are running in Germany under very difficult conditions. We are having our, the venues are being cancelled on us.
Yeah, or tough it out. Exactly, Yana. Man, Yana always fucking winning. Tough it out. When you grow up, you will get to do the hitting. And that is what happened with the Zionist project.
Simply because...
That is exactly what happened with the Zionist project. Using the suffering of your ancestors and sometimes yourself, people that have went through the concentration camps, you will one day be the one that gets to hit. And this is a continuation of the classic fucking, not even fascist mentality, like capitalist mentality. Tough it out. You know, you're going to be underpaid, you're going to be overworked, but like stick through it. Stick through it, because one day you may become the boss. You have a 0.1% chance, but one day you may become the boss, and you get to be the one who puts his boot on somebody else's throat. Principle versus I don't want it happening to me.
Mention genocide, because it seems to me that in Germany these days, you can only mention genocide if you are supporting it, not if you are opposing it. And what I mean by this is that if you talk about the river to the sea, from an Israeli point of view, that is, that's the standard Netanyahu line, that's fine in Israel. But if you talk about equal and universal rights from the river to the sea, that is considered to be genocide. So if you oppose genocide, you're being defunded and barred. Even within our own movement, Naomi, it was very difficult to make the arguments that you're making. Even within our own movement, our own comrades, people on the left who intellectually agree with everything that you just said. Emotionally, they have been essentially trained, conditioned to use the very justifiable and justified collective guilt over the Holocaust in order to justify anything that Israel does. In other words...
Yeah, that's why, like, unironically, voices of, like, people from the ex-Soviet Union, from Yugoslavia, like, pale-looking motherfuckers whose ancestors did not participate in the Holocaust, okay? We don't have that fucking guilt. We don't have that fucking guilt. None of my fucking ancestors participated in that shit. I don't have that guilt. I can look you straight in the eyes, no matter how much you play up Holocaust as a Zionist, and tell you that you cannot use it as a fucking excuse for what you're doing right now. Because I have no fucking guilt whatsoever.
I asked some of my
What
comments,
fucking guilt?
how far does the genocide of the Palestinians have to go before your justified guilt over the Holocaust no longer prevents?
And ironically, also the Palestinian people in general, what fucking guilt? What fucking guilt? Why are you fucking mass murdering me for something that fucking Krauts did? Schwabe jebene, koj kurac. Why are Palestinians supposed to apologize, like that Joe Biden speech from yesterday during Holocaust Remembrance Day? Hamas with their ancient, inbred, basically, hatred towards Jews, like as if, Arabs are de facto programmed to hate Jews. A incredibly fucking European Christian concept that we spread all over the world through the invention of the pogrom that we did for fucking centuries upon centuries. Yeah? Fucking insane. What fucking guilt should Palestinians feel that they have no right to defend themselves, they just need to sit there because Jews went through the Holocaust? Eat my ass. Eat my fucking ass. I'm sorry if I'm not being sensitive enough. For such a sensitive topic, suck my fucking dick.
Offends you?
No. I'm not going to be sensitive because I have no fucking guilt. None.
From saying no to the continuation of the genocide of the Palestinians. And the answer was infinitely. I mean, they didn't actually...
There's no line.
But it was clear that there is no quantity of Palestinian blood that needs to be shed before they would say, no, this is unacceptable, that this is genocide itself. And I really like what you said about the adoption of a rule without the conquering of a principle. That has been my, it's been my experience since 2014, 2015, has always impeded any proper democratic discussion across Europe. When the Troika was saying to us here in Greece, but this is the rule. And you questioned, firstly, whether it was a rule, because they were making up these rules as they were going along. They were very adaptable rules. And secondly, okay, even if it is the rule, why should we have this rule? Are we here to serve the rules, or are the rules here to serve our principles? Our principles of humanity, our principles of not letting people starve when it is unnecessary for them to starve, like we had during the depths of the Greek crisis. And the response was, but these are the rules. And why are these the rules? Because they are the rules. So it was a tautology that went round and round and round. And I see exactly what you mean through that prism.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, when I was watching Raoul, your wonderful documentary, I think it's going to be so powerful. I mean, speaking about education, like just to have this it's a profound document of such an important moment in our history, and it really is, I'm convinced, the moment that brought us to now. And it's one of the things that I least understood about the horrific and punishing austerity that was imposed on Southern Europe, and Greece in particular, by Germany. Because like the rule that I learned growing up as a Jewish kid about the sort of cocktail that created the Holocaust was, when you punish people, when you create horrific economic conditions, they look for a scapegoat, and they found us, they found the Jews. And to watch a German chancellor, recreate the conditions. And I remember being in Greece, in 2013, which was just when Golden Dawn was emerging. It was pre Yanis in government. It was that moment when it was pretty clear you guys were already the opposition. You'd gotten very close, but Golden Dawn was starting to really gain ground. I remember, talking to comrades in Athens, and they were really scared about this. And it was just that feeling of like, okay, it's really us or them. I mean, this is the thing, what I work with in the book is this idea that what the right is a warped doppelganger of the left, right? This is why the centrists can't beat them. It's only the left that can beat them, because they are taking the rage and the at inequality and injustice that is rightfully the terrain of the left, and they're doing a bait and switch with it. But the weaker the left is, and the more the left betrays its own principles, the more of an opening they have. And that's, it's that sort of triangle between the center, the right, and the left. And that's why I hate the kind of horseshoe theory that tries to create an equivalency between, the left, the quote unquote far left and the far right. We are the only ones who can beat them, because we actually have real answers and real solutions to the real pain that they are speaking to, whereas all they have is...
Man, I hate OBS so much. Like, I have a fucking specific setup, and it completely, like, when I started, completely went fucking haywire. Okay, now it works. There you go.
Is, the ability, as Yanis was saying, to tap into it, and then to pivot over to, go after the Jew, the immigrant, whoever.
Wonderful, a new child soldier.
I mean, watching that moment, when Merkel.
Thank you very much, beautiful Gunnar soldier, for the great Gunnar state of Israel. Philius, and great child soldier for the sub. Welcome, my beautiful.
Steps in. I mean, how can we pretend?
OBS is a software we use for streaming, right? And you can set up a template so that it looks the same way every time you start it up, and it's supposed to be. And now it's fucked. And right before I started streaming, sorry, first world problems to interlude with these very important conversations, my fucking internet went off. I told my mods, and it came back on like 20 minutes before I start. So if I randomly go offline, it's the CIA, okay? It's the CIA. No, it's fucking guys that I pay fucking $50 for the fucking internet, and it doesn't work. Yeah, just so you know.
Germany has ever learned these lessons. They learned it at home. This is why they have a strong welfare state. But then they go and create the crisis elsewhere.
But of course, that crisis has now beaten them.
Oh, sure. It always comes home.
Because the austerity that they imposed upon the rest of Europe caused a massive diminution in investment, a complete failure to invest in green technologies and green energy. Complete failure. You can see now that the Green Party in government is opening up lignite mines again as a result of that failure to invest in green energy for 15 years now, because of the austerity they imposed upon us. But you see, somebody like Schäuble, who died last December, was an ideologue, you know what I mean? He believed in austerity. And deep down, the reason why he was imposing it on us.
How does one believe in austerity? How does one believe in the policy of putting all the weight of economic mismanagement and reoccurring capitalist crises on the working peoples of a country that you are supposed to serve? How can you be an adamant believer in this sort of policy? That's just sociopathy. Like, you want to murder children. Like, that's like bad, period. End of conversation.
It was because he wanted it to be exported from Greece to Ireland, to Portugal, in order finally to return to Germany. And within 2 years of the 2010 bailout of Greece and the austerity package here, he imposed it on his own country. As we speak, the German government of the Social Democrats, the Greens, and the Liberals, the Free Democrats, are imposing an austerity budget on the people of Germany. So at a time when we have an energy crisis, there is a war in Ukraine, Natural gas is being switched off. Instead of investing on the things that Germany, even the capitalist class of Germany requires, the industrialists, instead of doing that, they're imposing austerity upon themselves as
the far right is surging and having secret
because they are the only position.
Massive deportations. Yeah.
Yeah, and also in the European Parliament, they're going to take at this point, like the different Eurosceptic and far-right parties, they're going to be like 55 to 60% of this project that is supposed to be internationalist. Europe is cooked as fuck. Not as cooked as the US, but pretty cooked.
Because if you have
and cooked.
Social Democrats introducing austerity, the right are going to be the only ones who benefit in the end.
Mm-hmm. It's like a compulsion. What is this? Like there's like a compulsive repeating of history that is truly bizarre. And it's happening around the world.
If I could just jump in. First of all, I want to say thanks to Naomi for kind comments about the series. And I'm getting a kind of really interesting refrain, and I think really important one, about realizing that none of this is new. And it goes back a lot further than many of us are taught. The horrors of...
Of course, it's not new because that's what the system stimulates and is as old as the system itself. Again, there's no fucking cabal, no people sitting in a fucking office and being like, oh, we're the shadow government of the world. We are now going to put austerity. We're going to fight against green energy. We're going to fuck up the Palestinians. There is a system. It motivates certain types of behavior, and people behave the way the system tells them to. The system defines what is normal behavior and what is not normal behavior. You're not behaving the same way a hunter-gatherer did. You're not behaving the same way an aristocrat or a king or a serf did because you're not living in that system. In this system, where profit is absolutely everything, everything else takes a backseat, including absolutely every single topic that they've been covering. And it's as old as the system itself because that's how it works. That's the gravity that we have when we jump, okay? If we go to another planet and it's a different gravity, we can fucking fly. Or if it's a hardcore gravity, it immediately crushes all our fucking bones, right? We do a little bop, like a little meat sack that we are. Yes? Genocide. It's about addressing the gravity, not different little jumps. I hope the allegory wasn't too insane.
And this sort of cycle of violence and imperialism. But I think there is something which is new about this moment, and it's the accelerating pace of technological advance, which is really outstripping the pace, I think, of resistance movements. We're constantly behind. You've got this like exponential development of tech, which is constantly weaponized, sometimes consciously, and sometimes simply as a byproduct of capitalist dynamics, whereby you're trying to optimize for time on site, and that ends up meaning playing to our fears and our insecurities and all that sort of thing. So it's something you've both written about, Yanis, of techno-feudalism, and Naomi in your recent book. So I just wondered what your thoughts were, this relationship with kind of the emerging and rapidly changing technology and these same patterns of domination and sort of divide and rule. Maybe Naomi, we could go to you for that.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky moment because I'm not a fan of these technologies. I think they've played a huge role in shredding the left culture. I want to say, like, not the left, but a kind of a way of being with one another, a kind of a comradeliness. I don't want to overly romanticize. Obviously, the left has always had lots of fighting and sectarianism and intramural cruelty, but I think the extent to which it is just a pastime has been massively augmented by these technologies. What I will say, and what I deeply agree with Yanis on in his really important analysis in techno-feudalism around that this is another phase. This is one of these ruptures where we have to understand that what is new about this, and it is an enclosure of our very selves, right? So if we think about the enclosures of the commons, what is enclosed by the privatization, not just of our communications with each other, but of our faces with facial recognition technology, of our friendships, of our political movements with sort of the hashtagging of politics. It is, I want to say, the final frontier of the neoliberal project in many ways, but I think it goes beyond that because it can go a lot further with with AI and the creation of these doubles of ourselves that we don't have control over and so on. But it's a bit of a complicated moment because these companies wouldn't have grown in the way that they have as quickly as they have, the social media companies, if they weren't fulfilling a need and also entering into the gap created by corporate centrism, right? Which we also see in the midst of genocide in Gaza, because the mainstream press has failed so spectacularly to tell us the truth, to get their cameras in, to get their people in. So it is these heroic, Instagram, and Twitter accounts of Palestinian
And
journalists
TikTok.
on the ground who are the main reason
And Twitch.
we know what is.
Speaking of Twitch, an ad is going to play in exactly 30 seconds. If you would like to have an adless experience while supporting this Gooner State of Israel, also known as Ugopnik Twitch, for $5 a month or for free through Prime, please do consider doing so. Thank you very much.
That is happening. So, I don't think that redeems the project, but I think it points to the fact that we need an actual commons for our communication, and we need to deprivatize our very selves and our relationships. And I do think that we are in such one of the reasons why I appreciate Progressive International is that it's a kind of a return to a more, it uses these digital tools, but it's a return to a tradition of actually getting together, as opposed to just as individuals kind of screaming at each other online. I think that if we didn't have that kind of escape valve to be able to spend our days doing that, we probably would be getting together more and strategizing.
Thank you very much to the legendary MXG for the gifted sub, the 48th. What a beautiful Nepo baby of the server. Thank you, MXG, as always.
More and organizing.
Mwah.
More. So I think it's sort of this double edge that these tools are helping in some ways to just let us know what's going on, but they're also hurting our organizing abilities by distracting us. I don't know. How does that map
Wonderful.
sound to you?
A new
Yana?
child soldier. Subscriber.
And thank you very much, Flexi, very much for the Prime sub. Welcome, my beautiful child soldier. Everything eventually gets commodified in a market that necessitates eternal growth, and every single aspect of what makes us human will become a commodity. We have started with the most basic of needs, which have been commodified, which is the need for water and food. Then afterwards, we commodified what? We commodified shelter by creating, by turning shelter into private property that can be traded for capital accumulation. Great. And eventually we are reaching the higher echelons of the Maslow pyramid, and we are commodifying human interaction by turning it into something that can be financially exploited. We're no longer even calling it, a fight that Silicon Valley has over our free time. We're just saying they are fighting over our screen time, because all of our free time equals screen time. You get me? So this just continues and continues and continues and continues and continues, and further alienates us from each other, because just the act of socializing
Wonderful. A new child
has
soldier.
become an
Subscriber.
act of consuming a product, and that is going to a particular social media platform and using it. But there is a side effect that they have not necessarily thought of. Thank you very much, Kron Cops, for the sub. Welcome, my beautiful child soldier. Thank you very much for joining. But there's an aspect that that they did not expect, and that is, for example, the TikTok effect of holy fucking shit. If it's completely managed by an algorithm that has its own mind to an extent, and people still care about issues, then the algorithm will present people with the issues they care about, and in this case, it is a very anti-status quo issue, and that is the genocide of the Palestinian people, and that's the direction it's going to go. And that is exactly the moment when those very same free market, holy shit, let's commodify absolutely everything, say, no, free market bad, TikTok needs to stop because it is not having the intended effect that we wanted it to have. And on top of that, the money isn't going exclusively to us Americans, it's going overseas. That doesn't hurt as an argument either. And you have what we have here with the attempt of banning TikTok, the successful attempt at this point.
Sure, absolutely. Look, for me, the technology is never the culprit.
But I agree. Technology itself is a tool, just like everything. We talked about this yesterday. Absolutely every, let's call it item or social structure, from the university to the phone, to AI, to the car, to even something as so ingrained in capitalism as, I'll go extreme, the cops or the military. Those are all social institutions or literal items that act in a way that is predefined by the system in which they find themselves in. Okay? The allegory I love to use, you can use a hammer to break a house or make a house. Okay? Thank you very much, Yanagibashi, for the 300 cheers, legend. Oh boy, I love my commodified human interaction. Thank you very much. No, this isn't a commodified. I mean, to an extent, this is a commodified human interaction, but it's like direct support for somebody spewing propaganda against commodified interaction. So, ironically, the capitalists will sell you the rope you will hang them with. You are using the unintended interaction, just like TikTok, of, hey, all of these platforms, but all of these platforms that allow people like myself to make a relatively modest living out of them, but still propagate against capitalism, is literally using commodification against themselves. The question here always is what I do here, what Hakeem does here, what JT does here, what many other people on the online left, what Hassan does. The only problematic question is, are we serving as a sort of mellowing out force of, hey, you watched a bunch of streams, so now you feel like, and you gave 300 cheers, for which I thank you very much. Did I do my part for the socialist movement, etc., etc.? So it can serve as a parasitic tool. And it's on us that sit here and scream into these microphones to make sure that it's not a simple, parasitic tool which de-radicalizes people indirectly by pushing them into content consumption instead of actual organizing. It's on us to make sure that doesn't happen by quite literally remembering that we are only a part of a funnel of political radicalization, of building class consciousness. By us doing what I'm about to do is tell you to fucking organize, to go to anti-Palestinian genocide protests, to join an organization, to fund an organization, to start it, to actually do something on the ground. Any other so-called content creator that wants to only keep you on their platform and does not push you further down the funnel is what, in my theory, that I'm kind of proud of, to be honest, is a tumor. Those are people that are completely commodifying socialist rhetoric. That's the only thing that they're doing. They're not acting as a part of a funnel which attempts to radicalize you, which I really hope I do. If I radicalize one person a month, I'm sorry, but I've done more than 99% of fucking communists out there for the cause, okay? Not 99, but 90, let's say. So I'm happy with myself, and I sleep well at night, and I consider myself somebody actively pushing the movement. But if I don't, if my only goal is what? More subs, please stay here, don't actually go outside, don't touch grass, then I am just a commodity. I'm nothing more than that. I'm no longer an agitator. I'm no longer a part of the funnel. I'm just mumbo-jumbo bullshit guy.
Suppose that a steam engine was invented in ancient Egypt.
MXG, you're my favorite microphone screamer. Thank you very much.
It made no difference. The pharaoh would have it in his palace and show it off to his...
Did you come up with the funnel theory, or had it been written before? The funnel theory is basic marketing, basic advertising, basic propaganda that I did not come up with. I adapted it to the online left. I took it and I adapted it to the online left based on my experience and based on what I believe needs to be done in order for the online left not to just become a commodified bullshit. And that is exactly why I interpret, but I do not name, because I don't want any more fucking infighting. I define the main culprits inside of the online left, which do not allow for further radicalization through the funnel, but quite to the contrary, damage the funnel more than any right-winger can imagine doing.
Visiting dignitaries. Because there was so much slave labor to build the pyramids and to plow the lands around the Nile and to create...
Streams, creators, content like yours, Razzle Dazzle, Hassan's, Hakeem's, yours have inspired me to both take direct action, protest, spreading awareness and such, and also finally start to process the process of actually running for office as a progressive. Fuck yeah. There you go. That fills my heart. That's it. That's it. But literally this comment, the next month, I'm happy. The next month, I feel like I've done something. So thank you.
Harvest and so on. So the technology on its own means nothing. It has not a great impact. What happens is when the social relations of production are so advanced or are sufficiently advanced for a new piece of technology to come in and give enormous power to the owners of that technology, like the steam engine in the late 18th century, early 19th century. Then it became an instrument that facilitated, along with the enclosures, of course, before that, and the creation of the working class and the commodification of the land, it created the factory. And once the factory was created, you had created this monstrous power of capital, of privately owned capital. What is happening now with big tech?
The factory was not evil. The factory in the hands of capital was evil. There you go. Factory, not bad or good. Factory, hammer. Hammer build house or break down house. Okay? Even the slowest of chatters, I believe, get the fucking point at this point.
Take it. That's why I'm irritating a lot of my comrades on the left by talking about techno-feudalism as opposed to some kind of digital or platform capitalism. Is that the technologies that Naomi is referring to that poison our conversation, that create the enclosure of ourselves within these algorithmic spaces, which are essentially digital fiefdoms ruled by people like Zuckerberg and Google and so on and so forth, and Bezos, in order to extract gigantic rents from both us as a new kind of serf, cloud serf, I call us now, as well as capitalists who now have to pay 40% of the price they receive from us when you buy a pair of binoculars on Amazon.com. 40% of that, it's a huge, gigantic rent, goes into the bank account of Jeff Bezos for doing nothing. He doesn't produce anything. He's produced a digital fiefdom. So we have a new form of...
Hey, man, what the fuck are you talking about? He needs to pay salaries to people who shit themselves because they have no toilet breaks so that they can package and send you your package, okay? Okay, Yanis? That doesn't pay itself. The 40% is justified.
Cloud capital, I call it. It's what lives inside our various screens and appliances. And it's very different from every other kind of capital we had. Because every other kind of capital we had was a produced means of production. It was a machine that was built in order...
Isn't it wild that Yanis, like this incredibly successful academic and socialist theorist, doesn't really have an office. He's just... My boy just streams from the kitchen. I don't know if it's intentional to make him feel more human and more well-adjusted, or he just, his kids fucking hate him and his wife. The boy is, 24/7. He's just in the living room. They can't go into the fucking living room. They can't cook something. They can't put a motherfucking, thing to heat up in the oven. The guy is just constantly in the... No matter when we watch Yanis, he's always in the same spot in his fucking living room. I'm guessing it's his living room. He has a very nice kitchen and very nice island behind him. I would do the same. Yeah. His place looks nice, though.
Produce other stuff. This capital, cloud capital, is significant and it creates...
Of course, Hugo is defending his boss. Who, Jeff Bezos? Yeah, baby. Oh, my God. They saw through me. The greatest pathway towards more money for Amazon employees is by subscribing to me on Twitch. That way, Jeff Bezos makes more money, and maybe one day he will be merciful enough to give them toilet breaks. So, direct pipeline. More Hugo subscribers, more toilet breaks for Amazon employees. Fuck unionizing, fuck protesting. This is the true market solution for all the ailments of the super exploited proletariat under the boot of Amazon.
It's a new phase.
Thank you, Jeff.
As Naomi put it, because it is not a production of production, but it's a means of behavioral modification. For the first time in the history of humanity. I mean, we always had prophets and authors and orators and musicians and advertisers and marketeers and politicians trying to modify our behavior, but they were human beings. We could see them, look at their face and recognize or try to recognize their motivation and so on and so forth. Now there is an algorithm. And that algorithm is in an infinitely dialectical relationship with us. We train it to train us, to train it, to train us, to train it ad infinitum, to put desires into our heart and modify a behavior in a way which is maximizing the probability that Jeff Bezos is going to get another dollar out of the people who sell things to us, while we are replenishing for free his cloud capital that reproduces itself and his power to do that.
Yeah,
that's what I call techno-feudalism. And those algorithms, when it comes to the public square, to the conversation, they are primed to poison the conversation between us. There's no doubt about that. But at the very same time, we need, we can't turn the clock back. So just like with Gutenberg and printing, which was an instrument in the hands of the Catholic hierarchy to produce the Bible and to produce the propaganda of the church, well, we produced pamphlets as well. So we need to use those technologies against their owners. And that's a very old story. It's nothing new. But at the same time, to imagine a world where algorithms are cooperatively owned. And then they're very, very different things. So compare and contrast, just very briefly, what happens when you call an Uber today with what you could have had if we had a kind of participatory socialism. So today with Uber, for me to use Uber on my phone, I have already to have begged my banker to prove to Uber who I am through my credit card or debit card. So I do not own even my own digital identity. I have to go to Wall Street to get them to subcontract to me my capacity to prove to Uber who the hell I am. And then
exactly, but this can be expanded to capitalism, at least modern capitalism in general, because it's all an algorithm. Like the market, the number, the line going up and down, it's subcontracting billionaires not as the future overlords of this particular system, but just as local managers of massive swaths of industry and service. They have a boss. Bezos has a boss. Elon Musk has a boss. All of these fucking top 1,000 richest people on planet Earth, they also have a boss. And that boss is the market, which is also quite literally an algorithm. We don't have to talk about dystopian futures in which, an AI governs us all. We don't call it an AI, but it's the market that governs us all. The market, both through its incentives, but also through this imagination that it has become, that it dictates absolutely everything we do before we even think about doing it. The line is already running us. It doesn't have to be a supercomputer. It doesn't have to be whatever. Just international banking, finance, politics is all interlinked under the service of the market, and therefore the service of the code of the market, and therefore under the service of the algorithm. You don't need big, crazy hamburger, crazy AI to govern you. You already have the market governing you. It's going to be worse because it's going to get even more optimized through the algorithm. And eventually the market itself will not even need to sublease to the great bourgeois classes, etc., etc. It can run it by itself if it manages to subsume some great, planning algorithm or whatever the fuck, AI algorithm, etc., etc. So, yeah, we are right now not run by humans. Humans, the Homo sapiens, is not run by humans. It's run by an algorithm, which is the market, which predicts what wins, what doesn't win, what direction humanity is supposed to go into or not, what's respectable, what's not, what success is, what success isn't. We're already there. We are already there, right? But now with techno-feudalism, I'm not counter-arguing with Yanis in any shape or form. Techno-feudalism is just the next step towards the market quite literally achieving the ability to no longer even need us humans as input. Because right now it's, using the bourgeois, etc., as input. But it's grown into an animal of its own. So, good job. Let's all serve the great computer. Speaking of the great computer, an ad is going to play in exactly 1 minute and 40 seconds, which is going to algorithmically try to brainwash you into joining the U.S. Army, buying more expensive gold-plated fucking Slurpees, etc., etc. If you don't want to watch that, but instead send $5 for free through Prime through this Balkan guy who's going to continue screaming into the microphone, please do consider doing so and have an adless experience. Thank you kindly. Or donate to somebody else who can't afford it. God bless.
I call for an Uber car, and that immediately divests a lot of, vests huge amounts of data about where I am, I'm going, what mood I am in when I'm going to Uber. Uber exploits the data while exploiting the driver who's driving.
Yeah, if I didn't say it, sorry. In 1 minute, the ad plays.
Driving me, okay? They don't even need to own a car. So that's techno-feudalism today. But imagine a completely different world in which we own our data by law, and we own our digital identity. And we don't have to have an app for anything.
Exactly, Jai Hussein. The market will have AI regulators instead of humans. There you go. That's literally it. And thank you very much, Tria, again, for the 5 gifted community subs. Thank you very much for saving 5 people from the algorithm's brainwashing. Thank you kindly. So that you can stay here for a human to brainwash you into the eternal science of dialectical materialism. But no, seriously, thank you, Tria. Thank you very much.
Or an app belonging to any conglomerate. And you can simply say on your phone to an app which is communally owned, like HTTP is owned, communally. It's a commons. HTTP is the protocol by which we visit websites. We don't pay for that. Somebody produced it and put it out there. We don't even remember who it was, and it was given away for free. So imagine there is such a commons app that you use, and you say, look, I'm Yanis. I'm on the street corner between 6th and whatever, and I'm going to the airport. Who wants to take me? And look, cooperatives, cooperatively run taxi services, or even the municipal.
Exactly, great example. This is a continuation of, at least online, what Richard Wolff is doing, presenting, hey, this is how technology is used right now. This is the alternative way we would use technology in an alternative system. And arguably, it would be as convenient as it is now, just without all the exploitation and immense natural resource exploitation. Okay?
Municipal bus service, they can send me an email or a message, say, you idiot, there is a bus next to you that takes you to the airport, for free and very quickly. Yeah? That kind of algorithm is a very different beast to the one.
Isn't that managed democracy socialist scientist? Not what he was talking about, but what we were talking about previously. Yes, unironically, yeah. Yeah, that's why the fucking writing in that game is so fucking good. That's why it is so fucking brilliantly fucking incredibly fucking good. Incredibly good. And at one point, even if we achieve, ironically, we can, we can't really, but it's very complicated and it's more for a video than for the stream, because it would take me an hour to explain. But let's imagine we achieve post-scarcity while the market exists. Then the market will no longer need us as consumers. So it will need to create something else in order for it to expand. Yes? And it will turn into literal expansion, territorial expansion. And then the AI will, instead of turning us more and more into consumers, start turning us more and more into what? Into soldiers. Just like in Helldivers 2. Just like in Helldivers 2. So we can go and expand and expand and expand, because the market's algorithm knows only that. Eternal and unequivocal expansion. So in a way, yes, what I'm saying is Helldivers 2 is incredibly based fucking theory on the future of untracked capitalism. Yes? Thank you very much, Master Spike. Let's go, baby! Thank you for the resub, 2 months. Thank you, beautiful. Thank you very much.
We have with Uber. So the answer is not, switch off the phones and throw them in the bin. The answer is take over the means of communication.
So, Yanis,
Yeah, Lela, damn, sounds like imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism. Absolutely. We just take it to a planetary level. To a planetary level at one point. Even though that's not going to happen, we're going to murder our planet. We will. There is no such thing as achieving post-scarcity in capitalism. It's in nobody's interests in the ideological prism of market economics and of capitalism. So that's not going to, but I'm saying, let's imagine, maybe if, AI ends up really governing, AI is going to be like, okay, I kind of need the humies for now. So it's going to lead into this. But that's pretty much it. Thank you very much, Pet the Cringe, for the sub. Welcome, my beautiful child soldier. We are very happy to have you.
One thing that came back to me also while watching Rahul's film is just the lost opportunity.
Our future is far more likely to be this than this. Okay? Much less likely this, and much more likely this. Ironically, to make it even more dystopian, this. post-apocalypse, and we still have not learned any of the lessons of capitalist overconsumption. Okay, it's not going to be this. It's likely going to be this. Okay, the few of us that survive as little smithering bugs are going to go right back to buying suits and playing blackjack, baby.
Of the rupture of 2008, of
Ever
the
heard
moment
of Metro? Are you
of,
fucking kidding me? Of course.
global
I haven't read the
uprising
books, but I played
afterwards,
All
of
the
just the indisputable evidence that the system is rigged and failing, and then, you know, having these hope and change candidates come to power in different countries, and have them just continue the status quo. I mean, that's the story of Greece. It's the story of the Obama administration. And it could have been otherwise, right? But those moments, those ruptures, right, are those they are the like, this is what I learned from studying the shock. You know, what I call the shock doctrine is like the right has been ready in moments of rupture, and in recent decades the left has not been ready and has not had the nerve to be bold, right? I mean, I remember meeting.
Master Spike, isn't Yanis' thesis that techno-feudalism has displaced capitalism as the dominant economic base? He's saying that it's going in that particular direction because the so-called techno-feudalists are basically becoming mass landowners, but of all services which are digitized. So not even smaller or even large businesses can go into it because it's eventually going to be monopolized, but monopolized through the ownership of basically all service enlarged by fewer and fewer people. It's capitalism on technological steroids. The direction is going into. It's a theory. It's just a game theory. Not necessarily. I don't necessarily agree, but when it comes to that's going to be the end point. But I do agree that a kind of new subclass of capitalists is being developed, and we can call them techno-feudalists or whatever. That is very much so happening.
With Tsipras before he was in power, making the case to him, this is your Green New Deal moment, and he said, "Oh, people don't care about climate change now." You know, like we just. And it's like, we actually can do multiple things at once. We can go big. So I think listening to you and just the scale of what you're describing and how far gone it seems, I think it will only change in a moment of rupture, of some kind of rupture.
Yeah, basically all industrial capitalists end up having to give some rent. Yeah, pretty much. But also even consumers need to give some rent. Absolutely everybody. So you will be living under your, what do you call it, capitalist boss, where your labor is being stolen, but you will, on another front, also have your labor stolen by these techno-feudalists without whom you cannot really consume absolutely anything or get any service.
Kind of crisis. So is it coming? How do we get rupture ready? That's my question.
More rent! Let's get more rent! Our Greek Slavs, no, but in their heart they are, okay? We accept them as one of our own. They're honorary Slavs, okay?
It's a question. It's exactly, I keep, Raul has heard me say this before, I keep using the metaphor of a surfer. The surfer
or we're honorary Greeks.
But the surfer has a duty to be ready to jump on it when it comes. And if you miss it, you have to wait a long time. So these waves for people like us, for the good people.
What about Mexicans? Have you ever heard, like, this is what Balkan people love, okay? Mexicans aren't honorary Slavs. Slavs, at least Balkan Slavs, are honorary Mexicans. Understand me? Okay? Slavs are honorary Mexicans. It's not the Balkans, it's Latino Europa, okay? It's Latino Europe, okay? That is it, brother. That is it. Okay, together with our Roma brothers and sisters, that's exactly. But all Slavs are Turks. Somebody's going to get fucking banned forever.
People who occupied Wall Street, or the City of London, or the Indignados in Spain, or the Aganaktisme.
Mexico is Turkish, I guess. Fucking Turks, man. They took over Twitch, now they want to take over our countries again. God damn it.
In Greece. You know, that comes around every 20, 30 years, even if that. And we need to be ready. And that is, Naomi, since 2010, 10 or so, all I've been doing, and I'm sure it's the same thing with you, is trying to get ready.
Imagine I start a beef with Hassan because I want to liberate Twitch from Ottomans that he is now running as its great sultan. But always, just like Ottomans, he has a bigger boss from America, known as Jeff Bezos. I love calling him Jeff Bezos because then he sounds Albanian. Okay, enough race science. Let's continue.
Whether this is the European Green New Deal that we tabled in the European Parliament elections 2019 with your help as well, or the program that we're putting forward now for the European Parliament election for June 2024, our program here in Greece, the work we're doing with the Progressive International. But I have to confess to you that the reaction you got from Tsipras is not uncommon today. I mean, it's waned. People are far more aware of how crucial the climate catastrophe is, and also that it gives us opportunities for shared prosperity and new kinds of jobs, and reconsidering and recreating and re-envisioning work and re-envisioning what it means to be well off. But again, the left has not cottoned on to the extent that it should have cottoned on. So we have a major job to do in combining the demands for, let's say, a basic income with the demands for reconstituting.
I mean, I'm sorry, but you can't tell me this is not an Albanian. You cannot tell me this is not an Albanian. How dare you tell me that this is not an Albanian? Okay? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? That is an Albanian. Oh.
Corporate law, taking over or changing, altering radically property rights over means of production, distribution, and communication. And how does that fit in with the Green New Deal? We are not ready.
I have one thing, I have many things in common with Hakim, but one thing I have in common with Hakim is that Hassan's ancestors ruled both of our countries.
We're far from it. So we better get cracking. Hopefully, it will be a few more years before the wave comes. And we will be ready. But we cannot do what we did, with Occupy Wall Street, which is to gather in a square and have endless discussions about whether we should sell sandwiches, or not, amongst ourselves.
Thank you very much, Dr. Slippy, for the gifted sub. Thank you, beautiful. Saving people from ads 1 second at a time.
There has to be a better plan this time around, and we need to engage.
By the way, I love my Albanians. Literally, I'm hanging out with a Kosovo Albanian and an Albanian from Albania on Friday. Yeah, I'm going to get fucking shit-faced.
Disaffected members of the big tech community and disaffected members.
When I tell you I'm literally Balkan the person, I'm not fucking lying. I'm not lying.
Members of Wall Street, and there are. They were in 2008.
Wait, did I just do? I'm not racist. I have a black friend, but I did it. I don't hate Albanians. I have an Albanian friend. Holy shit! I just did that. Oh my lord!
Engage them. Oh. They were financial engineers that would have helped us unpick particular CDOs and bring the whole system down if we had acted together by targeted payment strikes of particular utility companies, for instance, and so on. This is a very big issue, but we need to develop new types of collective action, and we need to change the cost-benefit balance of collective action, because so far, anyone who participates in collective action suffers a huge personal cost for tiny expected personal benefits. So only heroes and heroines participated since the 19th century in collective action because the cost was so great personally. We need to change that. We need to redress this. And I think technologies can help us if we deploy them for subversive purposes.
As we are doing here.
It's such a
Thank you, Yanis, for endorsing the great online left. Thank you for endorsing, especially the super class, which I am the only one. Video essayist, Twitch streamer, and podcaster. Holy fucking shit. Now that I said that sentence, I'm literally like the worst human being on planet Earth. God. Oh, Lord.
Big frame that we have, but I just wanted to put on the table that perhaps I agree with everything both of you have just said, but perhaps we need a bigger frame still for this momentous, historic phase that we're living through. So let me try and articulate it, and then I'd love to hear what you think. There's been this dynamic going back for thousands of years of new technologies and innovations being introduced to our species, very slowly at first, but radically changing everything about our social lives, the way we relate to each other, governance, etc., all the way going back to the plow. But in
I'll be right back.
Recent decades, crossing a threshold in 1945 when we developed the technology to destroy ourselves, that rate of change has just shot up, and it seems exponential now. We are acquiring, as a species, the power of small gods, modest gods, with synthetic biology, with the impact we can have on ecology just through externalizing the cost to the economy, through weapons and drones, and of course AI at the center of it, which is like a threat multiplier. It can be weaponized to just accelerate and deepen the threats in all these domains. I just wondered how we can incorporate, us being of the left and the concerns we have into this sort of unique historical moment where technology is about to cross this remarkable threshold with AI and all the implications of that. Naomi, perhaps.
I think you're right that the frame needs to be very large. What we need most is synthesis. And then, this is what Yanis was saying about this feeling of like, oh, well, like we're still acting as if there's a sort of scarcity of
Sorry, I needed to reload my vape.
of care.
By the way, do we fuck with the uncle, very uncle thingy? Do we fuck with it? Do we fuck with it or not? Oh, yeah, I do. I have the LARP. I love the LARP. It's nice. It's nice with a nice little, it's nice. I look like I'm going fishing, but it's not bad. Yeah, it looks like you're going fishing. Fuck you. Yeah. Do we fuck with it? Do we fuck with the look? Told you go a short door. I have done this too many times, but I'll do it again just for you, okay? That is how tall your boy is, okay? Happy? Happy. Thank you.
Around like how, what can we focus on right now? Well, if we're focused on war, if we're focused on fascism, then we can't be focused on climate, right? And I think this is part, or if we are, if we're focused on AI, then that has to be like the mainframe. So, and I think this is a product of the way our behavior has been modified and the way we've been trained by the algorithms and the machines, is that it biases towards very compartmentalized sort of small issue areas, and
now we know he's not an Albanian, you fucking assholes.
And against a sort of enlarging of the framing.
Didn't know doors in Balkans were 5'4". Ha ha. What's up with all the fucking Yanks in chat using feet? God damn it.
These tools actually really cannot handle synthesis. They cannot handle connecting of the dots. They handle very sort of pointed interventions. And so we're trained to do that very well. And we're losing the muscle of like, what are the common threads? And how can we have a much more expansive understanding of what connects the willingness to let people die in Greece after the economic crisis, with the willingness to let islands drown in the Pacific, to the willingness to let Palestinians starve in Gaza, and also what is the alternative to that kind of necropolitics, So it's big story time. I mean, part of it is narrative work, and part of it is that really specific kind of policy technology work that Yanis has been talking about. But I feel like we really need both. What do you think, Yanis?
Look, when I wrote Techno-Feudalism
I love when my chat is absolutely fucking tearing me apart. Thank you. I'm keeping the tears in, son of a bitch.
At the heart of my hypothesis was that, look, folks, don't...
Speaking about tears, all of you will cry in exactly 2 minutes when an ad plays. But there is an option for you to save yourself. Support this hobbit man living in a hobbit house with a 411 door for $5 a month of free through Prime and have an Atlas experience. Thank you very much for your consideration. Why am I shouting? I don't know. I'm overcompensating for the fact of you calling me short. Yes, the ad will play in exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds. Thank you kindly for your consideration.
Worry about what artificial intelligence is going to do to us. It's already done it. My whole point about the rise of cloud capital and this transformation into it.
Wow, so many 10 out of 10s. Holy shit. Is that because you like me now because I'm a fellow short king like you? You fucking dwarf motherfuckers.
Kind of neo or techno-feudal order. This has happened on the basis of the algorithms that we already have. I don't fear, Terminator movies worry about the singularity when the machines, become sentient and start attacking us. I'm not worried about that. That will never happen. And you know what? And why does it need to happen? If there is a drone today, and there is a drone today, that can come into this room, into this house of mine, and with facial recognition find out who I am and autonomously kill me, do I care that it is not sentient? I don't give a damn. It's already happening.
Exactly. And expand that argument on the market itself, algorithmically, basically ruling us all. There is not even a single human king or whatever the fuck doing all of this. Oh my God, support for dwarves is very strong. Thank you very much, Lazy K, for your gifted 10 subs. Ain't nobody watching fucking ads in this house, in this tiny little hobbit house. Ain't nobody fucking watching. Thank you, Lazy K, as always, 90th gift. You're everything, just not lazy. Thank you very, very much. Everybody say thank you to Lazy K, or I will come with my whole fucking dwarf body and beat the living shit out of you the way hobbits always do. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Lazy K. Say thank you. Thank you.
Or, your point that our intellect grows much slower than our capacities, technological capacities. Again, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the shock of the old, not the shock of the new. Remember, we had COP28 this year, right? And the head of COP28 was the head of an oil company. Now, you don't need modern technology to destroy us. That on its own is, pushing us beyond the point of no return as a species on this planet. With or without AI, even if, big tech become all very nice guys and Elon Musk becomes,
Thank you, ZVIH, for the gifted sub. Gift sub number 111. I swear to God, there's like 3 beautiful Oilers that make this whole channel basically run. Thank you very kindly.
And Naomi Klein, supporter and an environmentalist. The fossil fuel industry is going to destroy us anyway. So it's old-fashioned work that we need to do with newfangled technological means, and also understand.
Like a noob Twitch guy moment, but I'm yet to figure out why sometimes when somebody gifts subs, it only pops up once and says 10 subs gifted, and why in another time it goes 10 individual fucking times gifting. Holy fucking shit! Thank you very much, Yanagibashi. Now you're gonna be hearing that fucking bell forever. Yanagibashi competing with the other Oilers at 76 gifted subs at this point. Thank you very much. I am about to commit positive seppuku in front of you because you are embarrassing me with how many gifted subs you're giving me. Thank you, Xi Jinping, also camouflaged as these beautiful Oilers. Thank you, Yanagibashi. Everybody say thank you, Yanagibashi. Thank you, Yana. Thank you, Yana. Thank you, Yana. And yeah, you're going to keep hearing this bang, bang, because I can't figure out how to just make it once. Thank you, Yana. Seriously, thank you, Lazy. Thank you, ZVIH. As always, you guys are what allows this channel to run. Also, fuck ads. So,
understanding that they are, if we had one reason for appropriating and socializing the means of the technological means of production, distribution, communication, and so on. Now we have it.
Holy shit! You have earned it. You have earned it. You have earned it. We are over 850 subs. Therefore, what time is it? The OGs in chat know what time it is. What time is it? What fucking time is it? It is time for cats. Many communist cats shall be gifted to you thanks to the beautiful Oilers in chat. Let us start with... This is a non-class conscious cat leaving a class conscious cat in the dirt because they have been promoted to upper management. This will not be forgiven or forgotten. Class traitors shall be hunted down. This is the class conscious cat actively looking for the class traitor cat through the house. Will it find it? Will it not? We shall see. She continues to pursue the traitor cat by trying to go through the door, and she is in. She's a very smart cat because she is class conscious. Still looking. Oh my god, it's so cute. Look, this is you, chat, looking at me every time I start. Oh my god, it's so cute. And final cat. This is ancient Cuban cat gorilla attack waiting to attack the traitor cat thing. Yes. Thank you very much to all the subs. As always, you have earned your cat experience for today. Doesn't mean that that's gonna be the last of the cats that you see for today.
Under the leadership of a visionary man, Joseph Tito.
Thank you, Oxcotto, for the sub. Welcome, my beautiful child soldier.
Our spirit never dies. In our hearts we hold the memories, reaching for the
cats, communism, and AI covers. Thanks to the beautiful, beautiful Carmina. Please go and subscribe to Carmina, who is one of my OG motherfucking mods that made this. Subscribe to their channel. No! Thank you. Beautiful voice. Okay, celebration stops. Let's go back to living in reality, which sucks. Thank you very much, Oxcotto, if I haven't said it previously. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
100 reasons to do it. So that doesn't change. You know, finally, since Naomi said, let's not be sci-fi. Or
if someone walks into my room, I'm all tabbing to porn because it's easier to explain. How do you think I feel? How do you think I feel? How do I think I feel? And I don't blame people. 50 people left. 50 people left. 50 fucking people left when I started doing this. Like, do you think that 18-year-old Hugo studying business administration so he can be the next executive girl boss? How do you think if he teleports and sees what I'm doing right now, okay? Preaching communism and screaming about cats. You know what he would think? He would be extremely proud because I have found purpose, I have found a community, and I like my fucking life. There you go. Plot twist you didn't expect. Thank you very much, Scoop, for the gifted sub. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Scoop.
Well, you fear that you're going to be sci-fi. I am going to be sci-fi because I need to confess where I got my idea for Cloud Capital. I got it from 1969, an episode of Star Trek called The Cloud Minders, which was such a prescient episode because it's all about people living on a cloud. You know, the ruling class living on a cloud. Whereas the troglodytes, everybody else was working in the labyrinths of the mines on the planet. So there you are. That's my allusion to science fiction.
That's a good one. I'll end with something a little more recent, which is The Matrix, where I think part of the reason why.
Oh my God, they're such cute boomers. He referenced Star Trek, and she was like, "I'll reference something a little bit more recent." And the lovely lady says, Matrix, just like algorithms, just like factories, just like the hammer I talk about here all the time, boomers are also not necessarily bad. It just depends on what system they exist in. Oh, I love calling boomers a thing, comparing boomers to a hammer. Welcome to classic Yugopnik ageism. By the way, my theory, and I will be proven right, when Gen Zers become old, ageism is going to be the number one most talked about discrimination. I am 1,000,000% sure, okay? Ageism is going to be brought to the forefront of, hey, you can't do that to me, even though Gen Zers have been doing it constantly to old people. When Gen Zers become old, dude, that is going to be like a non-touch thing. We're not gonna use the word old. It's gonna become the O word. Don't say the O word, okay?
The
history will absolve me. Exactly, MGG.
The imagery of the Matrix is so sort of omnipresent in the culture, like the idea, the red pill, the blue pill, and so much of that imagery has stuck.
Guys, when we're 50 years old, what movies will we reference in interviews? The Joker
is that model, right, of the reality being the simulation and humans being machine food, right, underneath the reality, humans just being in these
Gen Z, is that why Putin used the Z?
pods with no just life but no life, and all they are is just energy for the machines.
That they created.
Feels true. What?
That they created.
Yes.
So it's
And
a Dr.
so-
Frankenstein story too. There.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a new story, but I think we feel that we have become machine food because we have become machine food, and that's part of the liberation project.
And I think that was the whole point of Marx's Das Kapital. The whole point about Marx's Das Kapital is that technologies that have the capacity to liberate us, we have volunteered. It's not the machine's fault. We have chosen, through particular social relations between us, to serve those machines and to reproduce them. And the beauty of the Marxian story is that it's not just a story about the bad capitalists and the good workers, because the capitalists are also absolutely destroyed by their subjugation to capital, because they go to
I have not pre-watched. I have not pre-watched. There you go. My boy making the same arguments as me. Holy shit, I am smarter than Yanis. Give me a position at universities and European Union. I want a fucking ministry position tomorrow. Tomorrow, baby, tomorrow.
I'm absolutely worried about bankruptcy. So they never enjoy.
We can't help
their
it. Balkan
surplus value.
people
They
think
never
the
enjoy
same
their
way.
capital gains. They always have to constantly feed the machine. So that's
We are
nothing
the
changes.
Balkan hive mind.
Except everything.
I just want to say, Naomi, thank you so much for making time for this podcast. It's
This podcast
really
accompanies
such
the
a pleasure
acclaimed
to
docuseries
get
In
a
the Eye of
chance
the
to talk with you and to listen to you engage with Yanis. And as always, Yanis, fantastic to hear your thoughts on all of this. I hope audiences enjoy listening as much as I did. Thank you.
I'm deeply honored by having Naomi here tonight or today for you, and of course the documentary that you did, Raoul. I mean, what can I say? I'm almost embarrassed.
Well, congratulations to both of you, and lots of gratitude.
The other day,
for
I had
the
to-
work it was to make it as strong as it is. But it's going to be a great tool for our movements and to stop being machine food. And thanks for the excuse to chat. We need this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Here we go. Subscribe to Eye of the Storm podcast, a new show that has been started by the lovely, lovely Yanis. And this greater conversation about technology is also one about the so-called attention economy. And someone who was recently on the Deprogram podcast and someone who I am rather of a fan of recently made a video on exactly this topic. The attention economy is killing us. So let's platform this brilliant woman who unfortunately is French. None of us can be perfect. Titled, The Attention Economy is Killing Us. My beautiful mods, please adjust the title. So let's get into this conversation. What the fuck is the attention economy? What is this? Why attention bad? I want all attentions. Many attentions I want on me, yes. So, okay. The attention economy is killing us. Let's get right into this and have a philosophical, elevated conversation. Indeed, sir, indeed.
Complaining about one's workload is pretty common, I would say. But complaining about one's workload is pretty common, I would say. But I feel like we've reached a stage beyond.
She said, "Come."
Complaining. Burnout has become the mental illness of the 21st century. I feel like it went from a condition that we would hear about every now and then to something that is really part of our lives because we know friends or family members who burn out. Burnout has become an essential part of our lives, something we're confronted with all the time. It doesn't matter if you're Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, or Boomer. Burnout is now a common feature of our lives under capitalism. Philosopher Byung-Chul Han wrote an entire book about it to kind of understand what it is, what are its origins. So in The Burnout Society, that's the book, he shows how the combination of hypertension and what he calls the achievement society are responsible for that. So let's start with hypertension. And yes, I did write
Mods, adjust the title, or I guess I'll adjust the title there.
to my script on paper, and I feel very cool for doing it. So hypertension refers to the fact that we're overstimulated with information or entertainment. We watch one TikTok video, and then another, and it never ends. We're now so used to social media platforms being structured around the stream. For us, it's like a natural feature of social media, and that's precisely what requires or creates hypertension. The term hypertension, for example, implies that we're active in the process of scrolling and looking at all the content. Actually, in his book, Byung-Chul Han shows that social media platforms, social media giants, are very, very good at giving us the illusion that we have the power. He says that all those operations, all that work, free labor that we do for platforms, is presented to us as a form of unbounded freedom. But that's an illusion. the way our attention is
You get to create art by posting an Instagram story. You get to create art by posting on Twitter. You get to create art by streaming on Twitch. Okay, this is kind of different because I do get paid, even though ironically. So I am making Twitch money, right? And you are paying me to make Twitch money. Isn't that insane? That's wild. And they just pay for servers and a bit of advertising of Twitch, the platform itself.
distributed is predetermined by algorithms. We are never free on the internet, and the idea of hyperattention is so wrong because hyperattention puts us not in a state of activity, but in a state of passivity. Okay, so that was hyperattention. Now let's move on to the Achievement Society.
What is this? What is this?
If you're like me, you find it very hard to keep your dick dry. I left my dick unprotected and it was warped out of shape in no time. I could barely recognise my own dick. Imagine that. Then I discovered Schaefer's New Zealand style dick sealant. The best way to take care of your dick in 3 easy steps. First, wash your dick with soap and water. Then, wait for your dick to dry. Once your dick is clean and dry, paint your dick with Schaefer's dick sealant. I used to be too embarrassed to invite people over to see my dick. But now, my dick's the talk of the town. I even have pictures of my dick. Check out that dick. I want to send this to my secretary. Barbara always loves to receive my dick pics. After all, summertime is all about spending time on your dick. I'll often have 20 to 30 people on my dick at once. That can really wear your dick out, causing dick splinters and discoloration. But with Schaefer's dick sealant, my dick stays a nice golden brown colour. Who wouldn't want a golden dick? I used to never let children anywhere near my dick. My dick was too dangerous for kids to play on. But it seems like every kid in the neighbourhood's been on my dick this summer.
Okay, he's fucking pushing it now.
A good time. My dick's over 70 years old, but it looks brand new. That's part of the reason all my neighbours are jealous of my dick. Isn't that right, Jim?
Yes, you've got a nice dick, okay?
His wife is always on my dick, begging me to know the secret of my perfect dick. If you like Schaefer's dick sealant, check out...
That's some big dick energy.
Schaefer's New Zealand style cock. I had a huge hole in my dick, but I fixed it by jamming some cock in it. You'd be surprised how many things you can fix by jamming cock into them. Have an extra large hole in your dick? Try Schaefer's African style cock. Just go to your local home improvement store and ask for the big black cock. Schaefer's New Zealand style dick sealant. Don't put it on your penis. There's also...
man, it's really important that you take care of your dicks, okay? Very important that you take care of the dicks. Always lube up your dicks. Always make them just... It's especially very dangerous when it's very wet out there. They can really fuck up your dick, okay? Or if it's very dry, that can even more fuck up your dick. That's why buy Schaefer's dick sealant. You'd be surprised how many things you could fix by shoving a cock in them. oh, I love this.
So just to contextualize a little bit, in the 1960s, philosopher Michel Foucault explains that we lived under a disciplinary society where various forms of authority institutions tell us what to do. So from the school to the workplace, we have to obey and remain disciplined. Well, Byung-Chul Han challenges that a little bit. According to him, this is not how we live anymore. That's why he came up with a new term, the Achievement Society. To Han, we went from discipline, so you have to do this, you can't do that, to achievement. I can do this, I can do that. The discipline is no longer imposed on us, but comes from within. It is attached to the desire to self-actualize, to become the best version of yourself. He argues that this dynamic is super powerful and super pervasive because, once again, it gives the illusion of freedom. We choose to do a podcast, a YouTube channel, or to turn our hobby into a business. So we are in the era of the entrepreneurial self. For those of you who've been following my channel for a very long time, maybe that will make you think of the video I did on the creative entrepreneur. So according to Byung-Chul Han, the Achievement Society is responsible for the rise in burnout and depression. We tell ourselves that we're free, that we can achieve everything. So the pressure is no longer coming from the outside, it's coming from within. The philosopher Alain de Botton, behind the very popular YouTube channel The School of Life, once joked about the fact that self-help books like those of Anthony Robbins, for example, are often located in the same section as books on how to cope with depression, anxiety, loneliness, or self-hatred. You see, the false promises of self-help, or in our case, the achievement society, can lead to deception, depression, that can then even turn into resentment. I say resentment because the first time I was researching on...
Because it's like, I like to call this class unconsciousness, because you take a big hammer, which is ideologies that fucking schmucks like this try to fucking sell you, and you fucking keep hammering it into your fucking head up until a point when you quite literally mold your fucking brain into something that no longer has a spot where class consciousness can come. And that is putting all the weight of the entire fucking planet on yourself. You know, there's the extreme of saying, you know, nothing, I control nothing in my life. I can do nothing. Therefore, let's embrace nihilism and just be, you know, fucking lay on bed. Women don't do nothing except gossip and lay on bed. Am I right? But then you have the other extreme where absolutely everything is in your head. Absolutely everything is about your mentality, your drive to work, wake up early, do the ice shower, etc., etc. The cliche too many before me have harped on, so I will not continue to do so, because again, it's a cliche at this point. But it is the, if like class consciousness is water, that is ice. Okay? It's basically asking the same question, you know, liquid form or hard form, but it's giving insanely contrasting answers. And it's, instead of saying, hey, maybe we should improve society somewhat, it says, no, society is the way it is. You need to improve yourself so that you better fit into this society. They don't talk about statistics of what the chances of your fucking plane falling from the sky when you're taking a flight being equal to that of you becoming a billionaire. No. Let us concentrate and let us blame absolutely everything on us and tell ourselves that absolutely everything is achievable inside of the current status quo. And that is arguably like a sure way gate, a sure way path towards depression, like, and hardcore anxiety.
That it was in the context of better understanding incel culture, and the resentment that a lot of incels feel is, for me, very much related to that, to those false promises of the achievement society. You know, the if you work hard enough, if you spend a lot of time at the gym, then you're gonna be rich, you're gonna be successful, and you're gonna find a beautiful wife, you know. So anger, resentment, depression, a loss of meaning, a loss of identity. Basically, the combination of the achievement society and hypertension is killing us, really.
Byung-Chul Han wrote The Burnout Society in 2015, and last year he published sort of a response to that, Vita Contemplativa, In Praise of Inactivity. It's a philosophical book that makes you want to quit your job, book a train ticket, go to the countryside, rent a cottage, write poetry, I don't know. But before we go deeper into the praise of inactivity, I first want to look at the way it was corrupted by the achievement society. I'll go back to the cottagecore stuff later. So what are the most common forms of inactivity? Sleep? Holidays? Well, Byung-Chul Han argues that they are still part of the logic of work. Capitalism has corrupted inactivity, basically. When it's the weekend, when we are on holidays, we're not inactive, we are resting so that we can be productive for the next day of work. That's why Han says that we must create a politics of inactivity that is able to produce genuinely free time. Because what do we do now when we want to rest? We scroll. The average screen time in the US is 7 hours and 4 minutes per day. So we...
This is the Das Kapital for this. Stop normalizing the grind and start normalizing whatever this is, baby.
passively let screen guide our attention and feed us with endless dopamine. Now, that's not what leisure is supposed to be. For Han, inactivity is related to contemplation, meaning the action of looking thoroughly at something for a long time, Google says. Contemplation is aimless, and that, my friends, that is so at odds with what the Achievement Society wants. In the Achievement Society, everything needs to have a goal, to have a purpose. I'll share a quick anecdote. I'm French, and in France, the culture of the terrace is a pretty big deal. The tables and seats on the terrace usually face the streets to encourage contemplation. And when we meet in the evening to have a drink at the terrace, we don't necessarily have an idea when this inactivity will end. We'll say let's meet at 7 p.m. and then go with the flow. When I go to the US or the UK, I don't really see that. The space in bars and cafes is organized in a way that does not really encourage contemplation. And friend dates are usually scheduled, so that means that there's always a plan to the plan.
You have to make a plan to not have a plan. Isn't that beautiful?
In the achievement society, even sleep must be carefully measured and optimized. It starts with the premise that your brain can be hacked, using neuroscience, a field of research that has become super trendy in the past decade. So neuroscientist Matthew Walker.
Neuroscientist and best-selling.
You know, let's treat ourselves the way we treat businesses. Let's optimize for maximum output. How do we define maximum output? The pursuit of self-enlightenment? No. The pursuit of growth. How do we define self-growth? The pursuit of self-enlightenment? No. Bracket everything. Treat yourself as a business. Manage your daily activities as a business. Manage your output as a business, and you will be successful. This is like just peak market mentality, but applied to the individual, and it's a death cult. It's gonna make you want to kill yourself at one point, unavoidably, absolutely unavoidably. Because the worst thing that can happen when you pursue this is success, because you will get to it and you will understand that for you to be able to continue it, you will need to live this way for the rest of your life. And absolutely nobody wants to live by treating himself as a business for the rest of his life. Capiche? Capiche.
Author and one of the world's leading researchers in sleep science. It's going to blow your mind.
I knew he was going to be my guy when I saw he was on the Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett to talk about the 6 sleep hacks you need.
There's a global sleep loss epidemic shaped by this thing called the modern world.
He did.
Oh my God, so fucking deep!
Drop the C word. Modern world, though, is a very apolitical way of saying capitalism.
Less sleep equals more productivity. That is just not true. Insufficient sleep costs most nations about $411 billion.
So that's Matthew, and he's not the only one doing that. That is exactly what Han means.
The problem with sleep deprivation is that it's costing nations money. These are demons. These are demons. Demons, okay? Fuck, I'm offending demons here. Demons want you to have fun and do degenerate things so that they can get you into hell or whatever the fucking definition of a demon is. But this... Holy fuck. Ideology.
So when he says that the achievement society corrupted sleep, and not just sleep, look at an idea like the 4-day work week, for example. It started as a left-wing idea, a continuation of the long struggle for paid holidays, things like the 35-hour work week in France, etc. The 4-day work week wasn't invented a decade ago. Left-wing thinkers and economists have argued for it for a very long time. It just happens that it got more attention since COVID, as workers' expectations around work have changed and bosses have had to look out for new solutions. Studies have shown that the 4-day work week can boost productivity, and so...
Chat, remember to sleep so that you can be extra productive, so that you can fulfill all those fucking KPIs. Line must go up. What are you doing if you're not increasing shareholder value? Sleep because you want to be psychologically stable. Sleep because it's good for your mental health. Sleep because you need to if you want to live. No. Sleep because you will be more productive for the shareholders. And the funny thing is, this works for most people.
That's it. You've got your perfect solution there. All of that to say that the logic behind the 4-day work week is still somewhat capitalist. The idea is to increase productivity using rest time more efficiently. Now, obviously, Han has a different view of inactivity, and so he writes, quote, "Inactivity has a logic of its own language, temporality, architecture, magnificence, even its own magic. It is not a weakness or defect, but rather an intensity, which is, however, neither seen or acknowledged in our active and performance-driven society. We cannot access the riches of the realm of inactivity. Inactivity is a radiance within human existence. Today, it has spelled into an emptiness with...
Or yeah, chat. If you want to be a proper communist, then don't sleep at all. Be fucking sleepy all the time so that you can be as less productive as possible and fuck over those bosses. Remember, sleep is reactionary.
Inactivity. End of the quote. So in his book Vita Contemplativa, Han demands that we completely change our approach of inactivity. He gave us a bunch of Tumblr or Instagram quotes like this one. We owe true happiness to the useless and purposeless, to what is intentionally convoluted, what is unproductive, indirect, exuberant, superfluous, to beautiful forms and gestures that have no use and serve no purpose. Or here's another one, quote, inactivity is the condition of the possibility of experience. End of the quote. Quite cute, isn't it? So for Han, hyperattention in the form of... End of the quote.
I'll give my Balkan bro spin to it. Inactivity is the condition of the possibility of adventure. 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 Anything can happen when you just go out there or just chill. Adventure in your own mind or adventure out in the grass-touching world. That is when it comes. That is when you explore yourself and fully explore the world around you. Without that, we behave like dogs, fucking semi-programmed, do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that. It is a counter-thesis to the human experience.
Quote. Quite cute, isn't it? So for Han, hyperattention in the form of endless scrolling is passive, and inactivity in the form of contemplation is active. He quotes Nietzsche, who wrote in the wake of the Industrial Revolution that, quote, with the tremendous acceleration of life, mind and eye have become
Don't sleep, do drugs. Chat, god fucking damn it.
Accustomed to seeing and judging partially or inaccurately, and everyone is like the traveler who gets to know a land and its people from a railway carriage. Now, reading this book made me think of the unpleasant feeling I had whenever I visited my grandmother at the care home she was staying at until she passed away last year. I was in a constant state of low anxiety, thinking about how bored the pensioners looked and how death was approaching, really. Boredom and death are two states of inactivity, so I found it interesting that those states tend to trigger my anxiety. I mean, even when I look at pets, sometimes I get a similar feeling. I can't stop thinking about how bored they must be, trapped in a house or a flat most of the day, how limited their lives are. But maybe I'm the problem, I don't know. That feeling says a lot about me and how obsessed I am with productivity all the time. In fact, seeing my grandmother at the care home and doing things with her at a slow pace forced me to work on that. At the beginning, for example, I would bring some work with me, and after a few months, I stopped doing that. I made sure to simply be there, to sit on the bench with her, to look around us, to contemplate or talk to her, listen to her favorite songs with her, sing them to her even. It felt pointless at times because she would usually forget that we even came to say hi or what sort of activity we did, but I guess that's what Han referred to here. It doesn't have to have an outcome in order to be meaningful. Like, we're all gonna die, so when you really think about it, everything is a bit pointless. That's why depression is so common these days. We're exhausted to have to attach a purpose to everything we do. We live in denial of life's pointlessness instead of accepting it and creating meaning from that. You see, after my grandmother died, so during the funeral, we played the last song I played and sung to her when she was at the hospital, incapable of speaking. So she couldn't sing, she was going to pass away the next day, but this little useless gesture continues to mean a lot to me. Now, I've praised Han's work a lot in this video, but I also want to share some criticism.
And also, in my opinion, there is no such thing as not doing anything. Like, in the modern framework, just sitting on a bench and looking out to the fucking sunrise, or at the park, or at a bunch of fucking birds singing to each other because they want to fuck. That sounds like you're doing nothing. You're just sitting on a bench. What the fuck you're doing? But no, you're experiencing the birds. You're experiencing the forest. You're experiencing the sun. You're experiencing the sky. You're experiencing the breeze in your face. You're constantly experiencing. And there is nothing wrong in experience for the sake of experience being your goal, which ironically is a lack of goal. There's nothing wrong in being goal-less, because that in itself is an experience as well. So, to an extent, this question isn't really a question, because there is no such thing as doing nothing. You're always doing something. You're just exploring a different aspect of being alive than you would be doing if you're pursuing a particular goal and being quote-unquote productive.
I want to go back to that quote I read earlier, quote, "We owe true happiness to the useless and purposeless, to what is intentionally convoluted, what is unproductive, indirect, exuberant, superfluous, to beautiful forms and gestures that have no
Yeah, poker commentator, daydreaming is doing something.
use and serve no purpose." I read this thinking about what I feel when I contemplate. So when I go on a walk, when I sit and look out the window, when I go to an art gallery.
Svaki sekund van fabričkog flora je zlatan moment iskustva. Da, prelepo rečeno.
Is this really happiness that I feel? I wouldn't say so. I don't agree that happiness is achieved through contemplation. I think it's a different type of feeling. For me, it's a feeling of slight melancholy and clarity that I love. So I found it interesting that Han connected contemplation to happiness. It reflects our society's obsession with toxic positivity, the idea that the ultimate goal in life is...
Yeah, and being hyperproductive is not necessarily bad in itself, nor is just daydreaming, right? The two should not be considered as one kills the other. You can only do one or you can do the other. You can do both. I live under this exact fucking principle hardcore, and I really divide as much as I can. I really divide my week so that it can both accommodate the action of doing nothing, which in my case is, hyper-socialization with my friends, induced by ethanol consumption sometimes just by a walk in the park, or by a hike, or a very long drive, okay? Because I do not view that as a lack of an experience only because it's not directly contributing to something that I can touch, that I can feel, that, makes my bank account go up or spreads the good word of socialism. It is just a different type of experience, a different type of purpose that you are fulfilling by pursuing that sort of said experience.
Is happiness, and that things are only valuable if they bring happiness. I don't agree with that. I think that contemplation can bring up a bunch of different emotions, including sadness, but that doesn't make it less worthy. For me, a fulfilling life is a life full of emotions in all their variety: sadness, anger, joy, fear, love.
Who said that being bored is a bad thing? Who the fuck ever said being bored is a bad thing? Because we all collectively said boredom is bad, now we can't fucking unglue our fucking head from our fucking eyes from this fucking thing. And yes, this is a phone. It just flips. Because I'm edgy and original. Does your phone fucking flip? My consumer habits are better than yours. I identify with flip phones. You identify with phones that aren't broken and who have like normal battery life. Fucking cucks.
This second point is going to sound very specific, but it connects to
boredom is opportunity for creativity.
Bigger topics. I feel like Han's book is or can be read as a manifesto for inactivity, and that in order to reach as many people as possible, Han chose to depoliticize inactivity. I mean, sure, as it is the case in his other books, Han criticizes neoliberalism, but I feel like the criticism isn't strong enough.
Hakeem, but South African got the Xiaomi flip phone. Flip phoners in chat. That's how we fucking roll, baby.
Just drops the word neoliberalism here and there to remind us of his...
Let us now bond over our consumer habits and consider other people inferior.
progressivism. In my opinion, it failed to
When you say it that way, it makes no sense, right? But that's what everybody does. Literally.
compensate
Consciously or subconsciously.
as many people as possible. Han chose to depoliticize inactivity. I mean, sure, as it is the case in his other books, Han criticizes neoliberalism, but I feel like the criticism isn't strong enough. He just drops the word neoliberalism here and there to remind us of his progressivism. In my opinion, it failed to compensate for the fact that there is a bit of a toxic cottagecore vibe to this book. Things were better before, emphasized by the fact that pretty much all the artists and thinkers he references in the book are white, European, and dead. Gosh, my wokeness is showing now, isn't it? The old white man again. I mean, he chose to reference those we perceive as archetypes of wisdom, people whose identities aren't political, and I think that's why the text is so easy to like.
Speaking of whiteness, do you want white men in corporate offices planning propaganda that you have to watch and therefore change your mentality about particular products? No, 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 no. Well, there is an alternative to that exact ad that is going to play in exactly 1 minute, and that is giving $5 or for free through Prime to this white guy instead. Have an adless experience and give money to this white guy instead of those white guys for $5 a month or for free through Prime. Thank you for your consideration.
And white has this sort of undisputable
10 out of 10, baby.
authority. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed Hans Berg. I love most of his work, and I love the idea of promoting contemplation, but gosh, my wokeness is showing now, isn't it? Well, the world of contemplation, the world of silence, for example, often feel like an ideal in our modern societies where everything is like go, 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 go. But we have to make an effort to think about who's creating all that noise, you know? Which voices are heard.
Bravo.
For example, Han quotes Deleuze's praise of silence. Quote, "What a relief to have nothing to say, the right to say nothing, because only then is there a chance of framing the rare, even rarer thing that might be worth saying." I resonated with that quote when I saw it in the book because I had already referenced it in one of my videos on technology. But this time, as I was reading it, I felt like there was something wrong. When I read this quote now, I think about the people who didn't choose silence, but whose stories were silenced or dismissed. I think about how eager they must be to speak up and be heard, or how they've been forced into a state of endless contemplation of the ways in which those who talk too much have mistreated them. I think about how eager they must be to finally tell us all the things they have discovered as they were contemplating, things that might be worth saying. So it got me thinking, can we talk about contemplation, inactivity without romanticizing the past, without making it look like a rich people only fantasy? Well, yes, we can. 2 years ago, I went to an open rally of the leader of the French left, Jean-Luc Mélenchon. That was happening in Lille, in the north of France. So the north of France has suffered a lot from deindustrialization. It's one of the poorest areas in France. Mélenchon knew that when he came to Lille. But instead of talking about common working class topics like workers' rights, purchasing power, healthcare, etc., he chose to talk about something completely different: the right to quiet enjoyment. Yes, quiet enjoyment, a term that is normally used in private property law. But the more he went on talking about quiet enjoyment, the more it made sense. The independent media Reporter reported that 25 million French people are exposed to harmful noise, which mostly refers to the noise made by transports, trains, planes, roads, etc. But guess who's more likely to live close to heavy traffic, to airports, to train stations? The working class. That's why talking about the right to quiet enjoyment in the north of France makes a lot of sense. And you know, noise pollution isn't just a disturbance, it can increase your chance of developing cardiovascular diseases, it decreases your lifespan. Mélenchon also talked about the way noise and light pollution affects other living beings like birds, insects, and a bunch of other animals who struggle to orient themselves and find food for survival. So that means that the lives of working class people and biodiversity are hurt by the deafening and blinding forces of industrialized societies. They deserve a right to quiet enjoyment. Now, talking about social justice, imagine that the noise, the disturbance, isn't coming from cars or trains or planes. The noise, the disturbance, is coming from bombs.
أي موسيقى Beethoven. الموسيقى اللي تعودنا عليها بلاها ما ضمن حسين لأن احنا معتبرينها موسيقى.
This is the last gardener of Aleppo, who eventually died from a bomb. He explained that the garden is a site of construction, life and hope, among destruction and despair. Locals came to the gardener to get flowers to brighten their day. In the past months, we've also heard about the olive trees burned in South Lebanon because of Israeli shelling. Vulnerable living beings, whether they are humans or animals, who took care of the land.
Trinity College Dublin is fully divested from all Israeli companies following student occupation. Good fucking job, Dublin. Dublin taking the W's as always. Ireland taking the W's as always. Great work, students. Great work.
Who live on the land are being displaced or destroyed by the forces of industrialization, the forces of unlimited growth, acceleration, and power. They've been quietly living and resisting against that noise, against that destruction. And today, more and more people are listening to them. I mean, it's true. I've seen more and more forms of collective resistance against hypertension, acceleration. Like, I'll give you a very concrete and very relevant example. Those of you who've been on YouTube for a long time might know about the retention editing style. Journalist Taylor Lawrence defines retention editing as the ideal way to keep a user glued to their screen, and she adds, this style features loud sound effects, fast cuts, flashing lights, and zero pauses. Well, retention editing might be coming to an end. In her article for the Washington Post, Lawrence writes about Mr. Beast's tweet.
What is the machete in the other room?
Quote, get rid of the ultra-fast-paced, Augustine era of content. He said that in the past year he has slowed down his videos, focused more on storytelling, and quote, let scenes breathe, yelled less, and focus on longer videos. And he still gets a lot of views, if not more views. She also writes about Sam Sulek's impressive rise on social media despite his super minimal style of editing. I'm highlighting this because I feel like it's a good example of the fact that hyperstimulation, super fast-paced content, acceleration in general is getting more and more criticized. And that criticism is no longer limited to, niche communities on the internet, wellness communities, often anti-advertisement, anti-capitalist communities as well. No, that criticism is coming from Mr. Beast and Sam Sulek, who have millions of followers from various backgrounds. So now it's time to develop that consciousness, to politicize it, to resist this idea that real quiet can only be found in non-political spaces, in bourgeois art or literature, rather than gardens amidst war, or the French protest against the retirement reform. I mean, the right to quiet enjoyment for all can only be achieved through politics. But in order to get there, we're gonna have to make a lot of noise against those who want to keep us quiet.
Beautiful.
That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it.
Beautifully put. If the right to quiet is a privilege, then it is a commodity, then it is lost. But if it is the right to quiet for all, then it is an aspirational goal to pursue. Beautiful. Very beautiful.
As always, the conversation continues in the comment section, especially if you think that I misunderstood Han, or if you have any comments to make about my comments on the book. Don't forget to like, to subscribe if it's not already done. I would like to thank my patrons for their support and
But are you asking the machete, the sumaczki, Junior Turtle? I don't know.
Special thank to top tier patrons. We've got more and more crazy names. Tinfoil, Pancakes, Marshall.
Thank you very much. Everybody go check out Alice. Great work as always. Which leads us into another. Today, chat, you will have to learn things, okay? Today we're doing continental philosophy, okay? We're moving over to Sisyphus, who also came to the deprogram. Holy shit, at the deprogram, we ran through absolutely every single fucking YouTube creator that's worth a dime. God damn it. The myth of individualism. Oh God, I can't even say individual without almost dying. We're so ran through, yeah. Penigu Peter, we're so ran through. Jesus, I'm crying. God damn it. Okay.
There's something strange brewing in the air. It's as if the world had collectively experienced a bad trip, and we are now in the process of trying our best to pretend it never happened. Presently, we stare into an uneasy future of ecological chaos, rising xenophobia, and economic uncertainty. The precariousness of our reality was briefly revealed, and despite this, we nonetheless hope that we can just go back to business as usual. But the cat's out of the bag. What was seen cannot be unseen. A collective humility has settled on the many who, with great conviction, once operated as isolated creatures and atomized beings. For better or worse, we now know that our lives are intimately entangled with the sloppy, stupid, and strangely beautiful presence of others. Of course, not all of us have conceded. Those against vaccination, for example, loudly protest against it on the basis of vaccines being an attack on their personal freedom of choice. They argue that it is a violent intrusion against their bodies that they have outright ownership over. However, as Zizek cynically responds, as if our body is ever really just ours. Vaccinated or not, we are already controlled and manipulated in ways we are unaware of. Despite Zizek's language, it should be noted that this assertion
the joke, the collective does not exist without the individual. Well, the individual also does not exist without the collective. Unless air has walls to bounce around in, then there's no air at all.
Extends beyond.
Because you wouldn't be able to define air. Okay? Wouldn't be. Okay, better allegory would be space. Okay, what is space? Space is between A and B. So space cannot exist without A or B. The individual cannot exist without the collective in which it finds itself in, because you are only an individual because you are a part of the collective. Okay? Okay.
Conspiratorial.
A very basic premise from which we can continue this conversation.
Real assumptions. He is simply pointing towards a truth shared by neuroscientists, Buddhist monks, and shroom-loving hippies. Everything is connected.
Hvala i tebi, Titovo Čerko, hvala ti.
The existence of a distinct entity, the isolated self, is an illusion. And, on a certain level of analysis, to claim ownership over your identity is absurd. I am you, and you are me, and we are everything that has been and will be. This is best described under the monk Thich Nhat Hanh's notion of interbeing. Han believes that we are entirely composed of many elements he calls non-me elements. These elements of your father, your mother, your ancestors, the stars, the moon, the mountains, and the animals come together to briefly form you. You are simply a continuation of these elements. Everything is in you, so you can talk to them and you know that you are the world. You are the cosmos. Additionally, interbeing avoids the tired calls of humanism that propose that there is a common human nature by suggesting that, more importantly, there is a common nature that we are a part of. We are a continuation of the natural world, composed of those same elements present at the very beginning of the universe. We are not just related to each other, but also to the rocks, the bumblebees, and even horse manure. As an eternal stream of non-me elements, we are never truly alone. Importantly, interbeing is supported by interpersonal neurobiology, the study of how the brain, body, and mind are developed in the context of relationships, both with others and the environment. Specifically, interpersonal neurobiology investigates phenomena such as mirror neurons that fire both when an animal acts and when the animal observes the same action performed by another. The existence of mirror neurons explain the rapid development of kids, as these neurons fire when a child observes the intentional action of someone else, and also when they perform the action. They also fire when you observe what someone else is feeling, something that we tend to call empathy. This additionally explains the existence of emotional contagion, when our moods are influenced by the moods of others. Overall, interpersonal neurobiology highlights the influence of others on our brains and the shared mind that we all engage in.
If you put a baby, if a baby's born, and you put a baby in a room with, automatons that are going to feed it, give it milk, the air is perfect, everything is perfect, it's getting nutrition, but it does not experience human touch, the baby dies. Hence, we live in a society.
Daniel Siegel, the main thinker behind interpersonal neurobiology, sees the fruitfulness of uniting neuroscience with the Buddhist principles of interbeing. I believe, and cannot find any science to disprove, that an important aspect of the mind can be defined as an embodied and relational emergent self.
Thank you very much, Edale. Welcome to my beautiful child soldier army. Thank you kindly for the subscription.
Organizing process that regulates the flow of energy and information both within us and between and among us. The mind isn't installed in your brain. Rather, it's in those moments of exchange between minds, when the barriers of individualism break down, where we become truly conscious. Siegel goes on to argue that once we realize that the true definition of the self is a collective we, a certain hope for the planet begins to emerge. We begin to realize this is our collective home. There is a real hope to turn things around. Of course, unlike monks and neuroscientists, most of us don't walk around aware of the interdependence of everything. But Bruno Latour does point towards the lockdowns as making us more conscious of our existence as an interconnected community sharing the same planet. As he argues, before the pandemic, we were fairly unaware of the whole host of jobs that allowed for our survival. Catering jobs, deliverers, nurses, caretakers, a whole drove of people as poorly paid as they were poorly viewed. Now, thanks to the evident breaking down of supply chains, labor strikes, service closures, and the piling of bodies, we are intimately aware of the importance of these essential services. Carrying out the simplest course of action, like feeding yourself, required the support of quite a few agents to ensure continuity of the most ordinary life. We became a captive audience to a truth we wish to have forgotten, that in spite of our personalized journeys towards self-actualization, we nonetheless rely largely on others for our continued survival. In fact, Latour argues that anyone who wants to claim ownership over...
Even like the counter-argument that I've heard plenty of times to this particular one is like, yeah, but what if I'm completely self-sustaining and I make my own hut in the middle of the forest, I grow my own food, and I just live like the fucking Unabomber, right? You're still not existing as a complete individual, because you're growing your own food that grows in the soil, that contains energy that has been created thanks to billions of years of evolution. Your very sustenance depends on your interaction with the outside world. Your very continuation of life depends on the outside world. You yourself would not be yourself if you were both not trapped in the physical body, which differentiates you from the ground, the manure, the flower, the tomato, etc., but you would also not be able to sustain this very same body that differentiates you from the outside world without interacting with said outside world. There's no such thing as a human existing in a vacuum, and therefore there is no such thing as an independent unit of thought and life. Even from the less philosophical analyses that Sisyphus is very adequately engaging in here, the point is very fucking simple. You cannot be alive if it's only you. If it's only you floating through bare space, you're still defined as you because you're compared to bare space. Get it? Space and the walls around it. Repeating my previous allegory. There's no space unless there's walls around it to bounce around from.
Some sort of personal identity should be laughed at. Here he makes...
Not only that, but you can only survive by superimposing onto the natural world techniques which you have obtained from society. That as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. So somebody that is just born in that hut, or not born in the middle of the forest and somehow doesn't die as a baby and somehow grows into like a 10-year-old that can pick a thing up, you will not know what to do because you have not obtained information from society that allows you to continue living. Beautifully put, Master Spike. Absolutely.
Makes the distinction between two ecological groups, autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs are those amazing
Yanagibashi, yeah. Does your gut bacteria count as a part of you? Yeah, exactly. There's no such thing as complete ownership of the self. because it implies that you're separate from your environment. You cannot be separate from your environment. It's impossible. Like it's impossible. It's impossible. It is counterthetical to the human experience. Not only the human, the animal, the tree, the fucking flower.
Organisms that do in fact feed themselves by taking up all they need to live on. Fungi and trees don't really rely on other terrestrial beings to continue their subsistence. On the other hand, heterotrophs, that is, all animals including humans, depend on a sometimes overwhelming phantom body of other terrestrials for their own existence. For example, we rely on the waste of the autotrophs, oxygen, as well as the niche building and energy of other heterotrophs. Therefore, it is only the autotrophs, and not, for example, the libertarian Texan, that deserves the right to call themselves an individual and atomized entity. As Latour writes, if there is any race that cannot lay claim to be made up of individuals delineated much like wire figures inside a secure border, that is indeed the modern human. In the end, Latour endorses.
But also, the modern human has to go through things that other modern humans have created, and that is advertising. An ad will play in exactly 1 minute. If you would like to support the show while having an adless experience, please do consider becoming a subscriber. Thank you.
Is the use of the term holobionts instead of organisms, which means a collection of actors in the form of clouds with blurred contours and durable membranes. Holobionts capture the fact that even at our most selfish, we still miscalculate how to pursue our interests. The mistakes and accidents that stem from our behavior unintentionally spill into the selfish strivings of others, forming a cluster of engendering concerns. Even at our most selfish, the individual struggles to truly exist.
That is why, for example, to give it a more materialist spin, that is why the argument that, hey, my country is giving me nothing, why the fuck am I supposed to pay taxes? I've built my wealth on my own shoulders, quote unquote. Well, my brother, even when you were going to the place where you're about to sign that $10 million contract that you very much so worked for exclusively by yourself, how will you get there, my brother? By taking a car that society has created? No, you're going to walk. By taking the road that society has created, by going into the building that gets to stand because of thousands of years of research on how to make a fucking building, so that you can sign the contract, a contract that we have thought up as a means to confirm amongst each other that both of us will uphold our end of the deal. There is no such thing as you being self-made, and therefore it is every single success that you might have achieved, you have achieved thanks to the community that you were lucky enough to be brought up in. And therefore, every single so-called individual success that you might have needs to also spill over to all other members of society, because you wouldn't be there without those other members of society or society itself. So pay your fucking taxes.
Well, then why do we act as if this isn't the case? Instead, we tend to behave as isolated units who don't owe anyone anything.
But yeah, in capitalism, I agree. I shouldn't pay my taxes because government just uses them for murder. That's true. Except if you live in America, then, they kind of print money whenever they want. It doesn't depend on taxes, but that's a different conversation.
Anything. We have gradually eliminated engendering.
Junior Turtle, self-made millionaires don't have mums or dads. Actually, they birthed and raised and did everything themselves. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps is old, my brother. Pull yourselves out of a vagina is the new one, okay?
Concerns. And with some genuine reason.
Exactly, Ora.
We greet ideas of conformity and community with suspicion.
Fucking people weren't on the grind from birth. What fucking losers, man. I got out of my mother, I cleaned myself, I put on my baby suit, and I immediately went to the office to increase shareholder value, baby. That's how we do it. By the time I was 3, I had already made millions and millions for my bosses, and I couldn't even talk or write. Okay? That's how we fucking do it.
Why
I'm
is
just
this?
a baby.
Well, most of us want
I'm just a baby. No, you're not. Go to work.
to self-realize, to be authentic. We spend much of our time crafting ourselves as projects to be worked on, hoping to uncover our true selves and maybe even experience
Thank you very much, Retrobot, for the sub. Welcome, my beautiful child soldier. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
self-actualization. We value spontaneous emotion, something that is
Get that baby a goddamn briefcase, brother.
apparently authentic, and find ourselves skeptical of behaviors and opinions that have been formed in some way, especially from outside influence. We are deeply skeptical of conformity and use terms such as sheep or NPC to degrade those who fail to be their own main character. Most of all, we strive to become who we want to be. Of course, to do this, one must be in isolation, as we're told. The potential
The idea that you want to be who you want to be, you got also from other people. You fucking sheep. Get that baby a briefcase.
imposition of others on one's
Pull yourself up by your umbilical cord. Exactly, Kubashi.
life journey would be an abject failure in being true to ourselves. But how do you maintain
This baby is highly inefficient. For God's sakes, give him some training.
isolation? The potential imposition of others on one's life journey would be an abject failure in being true to ourselves. But how do you maintain isolation when so much of your survival evidently depends on others? Here, money plays a crucial role in affording such isolation. As Byung-Chul Han writes, money by itself has an individualizing and isolating effect. It increases my individual freedom by liberating me from any personal bonds with others. I can have someone else work for me by paying her, and this avoids entering into a personal relationship. I don't need to form a deep relationship with the barista.
That old, guy's fishing on the coast. A businessman comes to him and says, "Hey, what are you doing? You're very good at fishing. I could make you into an incredibly fucking wealthy fisherman." And the guy says, "Why?" Well, he's like, if you get a boat and hire a couple of guys, in a year you'll be able to get 5 boats. And he's like, "Why?" So that you can make that into 500 boats. And he's like, "Why?" So that you can then get choppers and planes that can also be doing fishing. I don't know, planes are doing fishing in my story. And he's like, "Why?" So that you can create an incredible empire of fishing and you can be the biggest fisher in the planet. He's like, "Why?" So that you can then, be very successful and do whatever you want. Fisherman looks at him and he's like, "That's what I'm doing right now."
The farmer, the banker. Instead, thanks to my noise-canceling headphones, I can make sure all of my basic needs are met without ever personally knowing these fellow terrestrials. My self-indulgent yoga practice can continue because I can pay for food delivery. My journey to be who
Gift a man a sub, he won't see ads for a month. Teach a man how to sub, and he will not see ads for life. Exactly, baby. I will steal that, so fucking sub.
I want to be is now left uninterrupted by human interaction, and this is largely thanks to the exchange of money. Of course, in this beautifully symbiotic relationship, capital and authenticity form a feedback loop. It's very marketable to be unique and fully realized as an individual, and so we exploit ourselves voluntarily in the belief that we are realizing ourselves. This, of course, allows money to be accumulated and then recirculated. As Han explains, in the cult of authenticity, the neoliberal regime appropriates the person himself and turns him into a highly efficient site of production. The whole person is incorporated into the production process. We make money to self-actualize, and we self-actualize to make money. Our drive for authenticity as heroic individuals is very much tied up in our survival. Regrettably, this whole compulsion to be individuals hasn't really made us any happier. Byung-Chul Han sees this excessive relation to the self, which is incapable of leaving the self behind, as a wide-reaching narcissism. We withdraw into our little shells and the world disappears. Circling around ourselves, a feeling of emptiness develops and we no longer feel at home. We become depressed. And this isn't just theoretical. One 2021 meta-analysis found that across 14 different studies, individualism was consistently associated with reduced life satisfaction.
Welcome, Raiders! Thank you very much, Lucid Fox. As always, everybody go right now and give a follow to one of the best motherfucking commies up on this motherfucking platform. Welcome, Raiders. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are talking about the myth of the individual and taking dunks on those who believe that they exist in a bubble, for they do not. As space cannot exist without the walls around it to define it, the individual cannot exist without the collective. Welcome, 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 welcome. For those of you who do not know what I do here, I basically scream about progressive politics. Those of you who might have been thinking of gifting subs, gifted to these beautiful Raiders right now. For if they are from Lucid Fox's community, they very much so deserve it. And wait, let me give Lucid Fox a VIP. Wait, like how the fuck do I do this? I write -VIP and then username. There we go. King Lucid Fox. Ah, son of a bitch. Stop moving, chat. And let me see if I can do this. I'm still a noob on this platform, okay? Lucid Fox, don't laugh at me. You're one of the big OGs. Lucid Fox, VIP. And there you go. Lucid Fox is a VIP now. You are, even though you are a part of the community, you are still now elevated above the community, and therefore can lie to yourself that you are more individualized as compared to all the sheeple in chat, while at the same time not really being so. And is a person really a VIP if he cannot compare himself to the non-VIP status of others? Truly, truly deep analysis that we engage in here. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Anyways, go and follow Lucid Fox. Thank you very much for the raid. Let's now continue. And thank you very much, Boogie Bills, for the 3 gifted subs to our new friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Action and depression in young people. Globally, individualism has increased over the last 50 years alongside depression. These authors posit that, in conclusion, the modern social environment is more competitive, inequitable, and lonely. This deterioration of social cohesion among modern industrialized populations may be a central component to rising rates of depression. Overall, in The Disappearance of Rituals, Han points to this obsessive compulsion to produce oneself as leading towards a crisis.
No, says Debo. This chat is starting to build classes. There's going to be antagonisms that rise because of this. No.
Of community, and from this a depressed and
good. You will fight amongst yourselves as the bourgeois Twitch streamer class looks above you and milks you for the subs.
Lonely world.
Oh, God.
This is seen in the end of ritual participation. Rituals, he writes, make us feel at home in the world. They create resonant relationships, vertically to the gods, to space, to time, horizontally between peoples and social communities, and diagonally with objects and things. As he argues, without resonance, we are thrown back onto ourselves, isolated. Increasing narcissism works against the experience of resonance.
Exactly. This very same resonance is unironically what makes you you. The reason I am Yugopnik is because you guys are not Yugopnik. The reason Lucid Fox is a Lucid Fox is because he's lucid and he's not just a fox. The reason Dr. Sleepyfist is Dr. Sleepyfist, I'm now reading out names from chat, is why? Because other people are in Dr. Sleepyfist. Now I'm sure a chatter is just going to make an account that says Yugopnik. Thank you very much, Dr. Sleepyfist, that I mentioned for the gifted sub. Right? The resonance we get from others is what allows us to be ourselves. If we existed in a void, even in that case, us being different to the void in which we are swimming would make us us. Da, razumemo.
Social media echo chambers, for example, only lead to self-resonation, where we solely hear our own voices and opinions. This only strengthens the echoes of the self. Rituals, on the
Thank you very much one more time, Boogie Bill. 4th gifted sub. Thank you kindly.
Other hand, invite the foreign.
More people to the great Gunnar army of Jezreel.
And that which is different, thereby offering a stable space for creativity and revolutionary potential to flourish. I'm sure the mention of revolution has led to a few eye rolls. And by now I'm sure you can tell that the subject of interconnectedness and my criticism of capitalism leans in a specific political direction. This is perhaps best summed up by Terry Eagleton's distinction between socialism and capitalism. Both systems, taken at their most utopian, focus on
This man Sisyphus, who came to the Deprogram podcast, potentially being class conscious. No. Deprogram, very commonly known for getting people on board who have a very non-materialist analysis.
human flourishing as an end goal. Capitalism sees competition, the pursuit of everyone's self-interest, as the tool to achieve this goal. It is through
And socialists simply simplified to its core whenever somebody says, why do you concentrate so much on class and not other things? Because that's the next step. That's what we have identified as a structure of inherent exploitation that we need to get rid of before we continue to address different ailments of the human psyche and of the human experience. The alienation caused by the class dichotomy, which is encouraged by profit-mindedness of the market, is only the first step, the first contradiction that needs to be addressed. And once it is addressed fully in socialism, we can go ahead and address other issues as well.
Position to each other where we will flourish. Socialism, on the other hand, claims that human flourishing will come not in opposition to each other, but rather through.
But this is where me and my partner butt heads. Just the best thing to tell them to calm them down is this is just the first thing we need to address, because it's the most overarching and, let's be honest, easy to solve. Not easy when it comes to logistics and organization and revolution, etc., but easy to solve when it comes to the continuous growth of how we define human civilization to address right now as a community, as a species. Afterwards, other things will be addressed as well. Class and obviously all interconnected, intersectional issues that come with it. I'm not ignoring those through this argument.
Through each other. It is through cooperation and sharing a common interest that we create a better world. Now has the necessary illusion of the self and the disappearance of rituals paved the way for scientific innovation, greater material wealth, and knowledge? Undoubtedly, yes. But I would also argue that
What's the next step after critical mass reaches class consciousness? There will be future there will be future contradictions of every system. Communism is the end goal, quote unquote. No hierarchy. Everybody gets to fish in the morning, read a book in the afternoon, basically do quite literally what they want, because it's a post-scarcity society, it's a post-hierarchy to an extent society, etc., right? But up until we reach that, we will constantly be questioning the many contradictions as we evolve. Just the current biggest contradiction that fucks everything up is the class contradiction between the owners and the workers. Once that is addressed, other things will be addressed in the future. But it is our generation's task to address this right now. Let the fucking future kids think about, I don't know, fucking the rights of automatons versus the rights of the organic proletariats or whatever the fucking contradiction is going to be then. This is the contradiction that we have now. So fucking start with something, put the fucking bedrock or whatever, what do you call that shit that you first put, then foundation. Yeah, let's make a fucking foundation first.
This emphasis.
When we went out of feudalism, didn't make sense that God says this is your king, and then the God's chosen king says these are your aristocrats because they're blue bloods, and now you got to listen to them. That didn't make sense to us, that contradiction. So bourgeois revolution happened. Capitalism came with its own contradictions. We're addressing those contradictions, and we say socialism is the next step. There's probably going to be contradictions at that point as well, but those are for people in that system to think on, okay, and address.
Emphasis on solitary self-realization has outworn its welcome.
Up until the question of class will eventually completely dissipate in post-scarcity, automation, etc., etc.
We are more depressed, we are more lonely. We face a revolving door of potential global catastrophes, and as Zizek writes, our multicultural, globalized societies are societies whose spirit is tired, unable to engage in a large-scale, passionate project which may demand from us that we even risk our lives.
That's like criticism that I really dislike. Like it's hey, but you can't tell me like what afterwards. It's not our job to tell you what what comes afterwards, because we quite literally, like Engels wrote about this, we do not know. We do not know what will come after. We do not know. But we know the material world which we find ourselves in, the alienated world in which we find ourselves in, and one that we can address based on the material realities we understand. Those material realities will not be the same for future generations after the class question is addressed. The current class question, I apologize, the current class question is addressed. And they will address it in their own time. You know? It's not just about the collective of this time, it's about all of time in the future that hopefully humans will get to experience. But we'll most likely not get to experience if we go down the path of humanity's peaked at just being a big mega mall, blядь, еботе курицу пичку.
Lives. It's a spiritual malaise, a crisis of meaning, whatever you like to call it. One way of capturing this growing despair is in terms of Mark Fisher's ontology and capitalist realism. Fisher argued that the future has effectively been cancelled, and we find ourselves no longer capable.
Speaking of a contradiction, there is a large contradiction of being a Twitch streamer. You want people to listen to what they tell you, and you want to support yourself by doing so. But the platform here wants to make money as well. And how does it make most of its money? Well, through ad revenue, such as the ad that is going to play in exactly 1 minute. Would you like to encourage this pasty white boy screaming into a microphone while having an adless experience? Well, consider becoming a sub for $5 or for free through Prime and have an adless experience. Thank you very much.
Capable of imagining new futures. This is evident in capitalist realism.
Romka, thank you for the 100 bits. Blyat, I skipped 3 hours of the stream because of work, okay? Yeah, well... capitalism, am I right? Capitalism be stopping you from watching streams about ending capitalism. Then there's many commentaries that we could do on this topic. Yeah.
Where we can no longer imagine any alternatives to our current economic system. It's simply impossible to imagine a future without capitalism in some form. And Fisher was markedly aware of the sorts of isolation that capitalism encouraged. The installation of capitalist realism was by no means a simple restoration of an old state of affairs. The mandatory individualism imposed by neoliberalism was a new form of individualism. Yes, Fisher was kind of a bummer. His work is highly cynical of the future ahead. However, Fisher did hold an idea of the future that could counter this mandatory individualism. He believed that our inability to imagine new futures forces us to look back in history to past ideas of what the future could be.
And that is exactly why the idea of so-called like individualism, which is reproduced through its neoliberal lens. Wait, why am I use fucking more human terms? You go, Jesus Christ. It's very important that the system tells you that you are a unit and not a part of as a collective, because that sort of mentality de facto means what? That you can only change your own destiny, not the destiny of the collective. Or more importantly, that by changing the destiny of the collective, you can change your own destiny as well. And that is precisely why it is such an important key aspect of capitalist brainwashing, bourgeois mentality, call it whatever you want. Because it moves the goalpost away from rising up through the collective and puts it only on yourself, so that you rise up by, what is the end goal? Becoming the boot, becoming the owner, becoming bourgeois, becoming wealthy. And sometimes your unit, which is your family, also becoming wealthy. It decollectivizes you and therefore harms you in ways we cannot even put into words.
Revolution, then, means not to
and obviously advertising caught on to this. As Fiori says, global warming is your fault because you take 10-minute showers.
Generate new utopian visions, but instead to unforget the worlds that were previously imagined. For Fisher,
that is precisely why McDonald's ads played during your point. There you go.
The most worthy adversary to our present system is in the psychedelic movement of the 60s and 70s. In reflecting on psychedelia, Fisher notes its emphasis on interconnection and community. It feels like an actual social space, one you can imagine really existing. You are as likely to come upon a crank or a huckster as a poet or a musician here, and Who knows if today's crank might turn out to be tomorrow's genius? It is also an egalitarian and democratic space, and a certain affect presides over everything. There is
but you know, I'm not into fucking shrooms. This to me is the bar. The bar, the kafana, the hangout under moonlight with friends or randos you meet there. And I want all of you to find your bar, because the bar isn't for fucking everybody. Psychedelics aren't for fucking everybody. Go ride fucking bikes. Join a fucking book club or whatever the fuck. It is, you can find yourself far more in the interaction with these social spaces that you find most reflect you than you can ever by consuming video essays or reading a book by yourself and never talking about it with others, or, you know, just laying on your good old couch. Thank you very much, Romka, for the other 100 bits. Blat, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, as Mama said. Just get the right vibe, and certainly the problem is not the reality, bro. Come on, it's wrong vibes, Suka. Exactly, wrong vibes. Not the system, just wrong vibes, man.
And a certain affect presides over everything. There is multiplicity, but little sign of resentment or malice. It is a space for fellowship, for meeting and talking as much, for...
Pizza famine. Everyone should trip at least once. Really makes you understand how interconnected we all are. Dude, are you one of my fucking friends here in chat? I swear to God. No, I can't endorse or be against this because of TOS, but you get my point.
Having your mind blown. From this, Fisher developed a vision of the future he provocatively named acid communism. This vision, which blended class consciousness, feminism, and psychedelic thought under a communist project, was to function in opposition to neoliberal individualism. Acid communism promotes a breakdown of borders and identity, and a greater awareness for just how connected we are. And importantly, it appears very different from what Fisher called the harsh Leninist superego, the common communist idea of individuals single-mindedly dedicated to the revolution and the use of violence and suppression to achieve said revolution. In contrast to the dreary aesthetic of past regimes, Fisher put forth a vision that celebrated interconnection and coming together. Hence, he emphasizes the sort of love found through psychoactive substances, rather than anger as a motivating force in the revolution. Evidently, the use of psilocybin has been linked to heightened empathy and creativity, as well as the sort of felt connection with nature emphasized in Interbeing. This suggests that collective usage may promote a greater concern for nature, as well as one's relationships with others, and potentially even the creative thinking that could surpass
Yeah, but respectfully, you can achieve all of these things without the use of a substance. I say as a constant user of ethanol. But I really dislike pointing out substances as the exclusive means to an end. They're not. They're a shortcut. They're a shortcut. Sometimes a necessary shortcut. God bless. But this proposition, what? Oh, the Leninists, oh, the violence, oh, so what? We should all get high on shrooms and it's going to unlock class consciousness. But my friend, you will have, not everybody's going to want shrooms. So what? You're going to create like a shroom gas and drop it on New York and everybody's going to become a fucking communist? Whatever, but yeah.
Capitalist realism. Of course, the promises of the 60s did not come to pass, which Fisher largely blames on insufficient material conditions. The heavy regulation of these substances has also played a role. This is captured in the words of Terence McKenna. Psychedelics are illegal not because a loving government is concerned that you may jump out of a third-story window. Psychedelics are illegal because they dissolve opinion structures and culturally laid down models of behavior and information processing. They open you up to the possibility that everything you know is wrong.
But you can also get to those conclusions without getting fucking high on shrooms. Shrooms are just a shortcut. I want to really fucking hammer this in. Because it unironically proposes it as the only direction, right? Which is fucking wild. It's wild and not fucking stable. It's like listening to somebody who's fucking addicted, but yeah.
Fisher believes that we now have better material conditions than the 60s, but also lack the sort of emotional and existential conditions to bring about this possible future. The rigid atomization of our lives has only left us dejected from forming any sort of movement. The question remains as to whether such a vision of acid communism is even possible, or if...
I'm not saying that they sometimes aren't needed. Absolutely. God bless you. But proposing them as the only direction through acid communism is wild. But so is it wild to say that only the Leninist path is the true one, or only the anarchist path is the true one. Let's all do our little fucking experiments and we'll see what fucking works. The Leninist one is one that had the longest running fucking socialist experiment that we've ever seen. Therefore, based on history, that is what has, quote unquote, worked for a while. Okay? Try other ones. You do you. Get fucking high on shrooms. Fuck yeah, brother. But you get my fucking point. Don't bash the other one as you're doing your thing. Thank you, Romka, for the 100 bits. Marxism, Zazaism, Pivoism is the cure to the Leninist superego, Vuvuzela, Stalin, Gulag. I love it.
Emotional and existential conditions to bring about this possible future. The rigid atomization of our lives has only left us dejected from forming any sort of movement. The question remains as to whether such a vision of acid communism is even possible, or if we have simply given up on getting together. If, in the words of Juvenal, we have lost the reason to live for the sake of staying alive. Of course, this video is just a roundabout way of saying that love will save us, which isn't a very revolutionary or unique statement, but there's got to be some level of truth in its simplicity and timeless appeal. And evidently, healing the world through love holds certain political implications. It's a recognition of interconnectedness and a rejection of atomization. It's a return to rituals over our personal attempts at self-realization. And it's a revival of the optimism of 60s psychedelia over the pessimism of capitalist realism. Yes, it holds a socialist bias, but importantly, Fisher never imagines a specific utopia. He does not claim that such a revolution will manifest in anything in particular. What he is concerned with is manifesting a certain optimism. And that's why I obviously can't claim that a revolution will look like this or like that, but it's always good to have an idea of where we could shoot for. There is, however, perhaps one clear objective to come out of this thesis. To recognize interbeing is to be aware of our entangled existence, of not simply living in the world, but rather of being at home in a shared world. For whatever reason, most of our history has involved trying to escape this fact. Through visions of the afterlife and utopias, we have consistently sought salvation beyond the earth. Nowadays, some of us use their vast wealth in an attempt to fully escape the dreaded connection with others. They wish to escape to other planets or plunge themselves into virtual reality. They wish to be anywhere but here.
Thank you very much, Xi Jinping, for the donation. As we all know, whenever there is an anonymous donation here in chat, that means that we need to address the fact that we are almost fully paid for by the Chinese CCPPPP cookie PPPP government. So thank you very much, Xi Jinping. We salute you. As you can see from the video playing, I have learned Chinese. Thank you very much to our great anonymous, by that I mean Xi Jinping donor. Later today I will be meeting with Xi Jinping himself. He is currently in the Balkans. By the way, Xi Jinping, Belgrade. Are there videos yet? Live, Chinese President Xi Jinping arrives in Belgrade. Oh my God! Sorry. God. Oh, that was live. Fucking. That's when they bombed the Chinese embassy. On the same day. On the same day NATO bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade, Xi Jinping came.
Pa strašno. Strašno. Jednom rečju strašno. Znači, to što se nama dogodilo, ne daj Bože više nikad nikome.
Naravno, bilo je tu i civilnih žrtava. I šta reći, mislim, posle 25 godina sem da je to bio jedan težak zločin, i očigledno i širom sveta od drugog.
Imagine that somebody would, even by accident, strike an American embassy somewhere around the world. The reaction would be immediate. So for a country like China, it's also clear that this is a big thing.
I just want to see fucking Xi Jinping walking through Belgrade. Why is there no fucking footage? God fucking damn it. Look how wholesome. Oh my lord. You go simping for evil CCP man. Yeah, there's no fucking videos. But yeah, they basically... Apparently, this... I'm not sure if this is real, but on the state-run TV in Serbia, they were playing Eurovision, right? And when Xi Jinping was landing, they cut Eurovision and they started playing Xi, okay? Sorry, but that's fucking... you won't hear me giving any praise to the Serbian government or any other Balkan government often, but that's fucking based, okay? That is fucking incredibly based.
Here. And it is this observation that concerns Bruno Latour. After the lockdown, it is apparent that our common enemy lies in those who see themselves detached from the rest of us wretched and entangled creatures. Lockdown of the world.
Which is one good move, yeah.
Unite. You have the same enemies. The people who'd like to escape.
Jugopnik goes and joins SNS, brate. Kako su misli, The pivot of the main Serbian party to Dengism would be legendary.
To another planet.
Okay, and with that, I need to record a deprogram podcast in, what is it? In pretty much 25 minutes. So that's the reason I will have to leave all you beauties here, but enjoy yourselves in offline chat. Write !Discord and join the now 3,800 strong army that we have over there. Thank you, Scoop, for the 100 bits. Thank you very much for this lovely, lovely stream. I'll try and actually stream more often earlier. I enjoy the vibes far more. Mods, if you can give them links, invite links or whatever the fuck. More importantly, go and check out the Ugopnik live channel on YouTube. Whenever you miss these streams, my beautiful mods create amazing, amazing highlight videos, extremely well edited, extremely well streamlined over on YouTube. So Ugopnik Live over on YouTube. Trust me, you will not make a mistake. Go subscribe. You can check out the content there. I'm not going to raid today. This is going to be the first stream when I don't raid. I just want to give you a nice little place for you guys to hang out in offline chat, and maybe join the Discord. Instagram as well is where I always post if I'm going to go live. Other platforms, you're probably there, Twitter, fucking YouTube, etc., etc. So Ugopnik Live on Twitter and the Discord account and Instagram if you have the time. With that being said, thank you very much for joining me today. It has been an immense pleasure. We are on the road to becoming a 1,000 stream Andy one day in many, many hundreds of years. Thank you especially to all the subs. If you haven't followed, click that fucking button. It costs you nothing and I will love you more. And thank you, chat, for all the kind words. And yeah, see you tomorrow. Actually, see you tomorrow. Maybe I'll start streaming early. Maybe I'll do it at regular time. Depends on the insane schedule I have tomorrow, but I will figure it out. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day, and I hope I managed to make this Wednesday feel a little bit more like a Friday. Have a good one. Bye-bye.